Welcome, everybody. I'm going to call the March 21st, 2023 regular meeting of Foxborough School Committee into session and say, first of all, thank you for so many people being here. And I know we have people here for various reasons, but that's nice to see, truly. Now, moving first, I was going to ask, because I'd rather do this, if we want to have a feeling about asking teaching and learning first.
Any preference? Or?
Okay. Then I'm just going to say...
Ask Mr. Stanton, too, if he has preference.
Mr. Stanton,
yes.
Do you have a preference, given that we're going to have a number of people who want to speak at the open comment, which was advertised as our first, but do you have an interest in having the teaching and learning highlight come first, understanding that that will be probably shorter than open public comment?
I think we have some earlier bedtime, so if that's okay with people.
I think that's a great idea.
It would, and no, thank you for the input. So I'm going to do that. And for folks who are here for open public comment, thank you, and just hold. We do have a number of fourth graders who are here. As much as they would benefit from being part of the democratic process, I'm going to go ahead and let their parents decide what's best on that. So, Mr. Stanton, please do come up. We'll start with open public comment, and thank you everybody else for your indulgence. That's better.
Then we'll put them right back afterwards.
Thank you. And as our students are coming up, I'll remind everybody in the room and everybody who's currently watching online that these meetings are being recorded. They are recorded live, and then they are posted online. So there's that. Now, folks, as you're coming up, sit if you can, stand if you prefer, but one thing that it's really, really helpful for folks watching at home and extra helpful for your parents when they want to see this again later online, because they absolutely will, because it's you and they love you. We need to have you speak into the microphone so you can see what I'm doing here. Just slide the thing forward, and then we'll be able to hear you. So even if you're kind of near a microphone, when it's your turn to talk, just kind of slide one up. And if you would, we'd love to hear all your names at some point.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity for us to present at the school committee. We're excited to be here, and what we'd like to do is to start off is just to introduce ourselves, our kindness ambassadors.
Hi, I'm RJ Blair. I'm in 4th grade, Miss Gunlock's class.
Hi, I'm Elise McMahon. I am the wellness teacher at the Taylor School.
Hi, I'm Alice Breimer. I'm a 4th grader at the Taylor Miss Curran's class.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Declan McCormick at Taylor School, Miss Curran's class.
I'm Nicholas Youssef, and I'm at the Taylor School, and I'm Miss Sykes.
Hi, I'm Nithya Jamula, and I'm in 4th grade, and I'm in Miss Gunlock's class.
Thank you all. Welcome.
And so we have many students, probably any student at the Taylor School could be an ambassador here today, but these students, Ms. McMahon and I were talking about students who exemplify kindness without a reminder and who are wonderful role models, so we're excited for them to talk about what we've been doing at Taylor School. And similar to all the schools across the district, we really look at not only building academic skills, but also interpersonal skills. We're looking to develop students' friendliness, generosity, compassionate, and consideration. And when I Googled kindness, it's interesting, there were 449 million results in 49/100ths of a second. So there's no shortage of information on kindness. The challenge is to put it into work. Is that Sonia behind me?
It is.
Sonia. All right, right here, Sonia.
There's a chair.
And so what we have done is we've talked about empathy and kindness. We've talked about being in someone else's shoes and what it might feel like. But we also strive to talk about kindness as doing nice things for others, but also to yourself. And our goal is to make kindness a habit. That it's not something that you have to think about doing. It's not when someone's watching you. It's just a natural reaction. It's just a part of who you are. And we're fortunate because at Taylor School, and I know across the district, we have families who start this at home, and we're able to continue and develop the work that they do in a different setting. Part of this developed with Deval Patrick in 2002, where as part of the anti-bullying legislation. He also included a no name-calling day in Massachusetts, and that was January 25th of each year. What we have done over the past couple of years, we didn't want it to just be one day, so what we did is we expanded it to call it Friendship Fridays. And whether it's Team Taylor, putting a cap on name-calling, or showing that, we can all be different through the colors of the rainbow, that, it's not, the differences isn't something that divides us, it actually makes us stronger, and it allows us to sort of celebrate what we have. There are many schools across the district, even in Foxborough, that participate in these type of events. But what we want to do is to take it to the next level, and that's where we decided to participate in the Great Kindness Challenge. So also in 2012, 3 schools in Carlsbad, California, developed this idea to combat bullying and to foster connection, inclusion, and compassion. And this past year, it has spread around the world since 2012. And it's a K-12 event, and there's been over 19 million students, 39,000 schools, 950 million acts of kindness in over 110 countries. So at Taylor School, what we did is the past couple of years, we have been participating in the Great Kindness Challenge, and our ambassadors here are going to be telling us about what it's like to experience that firsthand. So Declan and Sonia, I think you're going to be talking about our kickoff assembly and our strive for 5. So Declan, do you want to start first, the assembly?
Well, we were trying to reach a goal for 10,000 acts of kindness. We would get a paper for home and at school. Each paper had 40 acts of kindness, and each time you would write one down that you did. And I think we reached our goal, and we got 10,414 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sonia, do you want to talk about the different areas that we looked at?
In the Strive for 5, we were kind in our community, the environment, our home, our school, and to ourselves.
So as Declan said, and our theme this year was to stick with kindness, and you'll find out why later on in our presentation. But what we did is our community kindness. And so this was a part that, some examples. So Sonia, do you want to talk about some of the examples that we did with the community kindness?
Yeah, so we made cards for the police and fire departments, and then we did a food pantry, a senior center, and we also made cards for the Doolittle home.
And so those were delivered across the community. And Nithya, I think you're going to talk a little bit more about the food pantry drive.
Yeah, so for the food pantry drive, everyone donated some food for the school, and we donated food.
And we had, was it almost 1,000 items that we
we had
collected? Almost
1,000
1,000 items. And that we brought those down to the Foxborough Food Pantry. In each grade level, do they have different items that they were to collect?
Yeah, some grades collected like jam, and like there was some grades collected jam, and there was different food items that each grade collected.
Excellent. And there's a couple of pictures up there, and actual pictures of the Foxborough Food Pantry. They were very happy. And Nithya, do you want to talk about the Leadership Academy that we have, and with the posters that students did? I think you were part of that.
So students made posters for the food drive and Leadership Academy. And Leadership Academy is about the 4th grade students and 3rd grade students helping out with teachers in each room.
Yeah, and for trying to make our school and our community a better place. So this was their first community service learning project that they helped organize the food drive. Next up is the environment. Nikki.
These are some examples of environmental kindness. Turned off lights when I left the room. My family picked up trash when we went for a walk. Reused cardboard to make a fort. I turned off the water while brushing my teeth.
Good. Nikki, did you have any other ones that you wanted to add?
No.
No, that covered it. All right. And our next striver, kindness at home, RJ.
These are some examples of people that have done kind things at home. I did a surprise FaceTime with my grandparents. We made 5 wishes for the children in Ukraine. Taught my little brother about the poetry, the potty. took in my neighbor's trash can. Gave mommy a super hug. Gave chickens worms. Cheered an opposing team in grandparents' cornhole tournament. And what I do at home, I help my parents. I do chores. I write cards to my friends and family, and I draw pictures for other people.
That's great.
And next, some examples of school kindness.
Some examples of school kindness is students listen the first time to their teachers. In the school, kids also pick up like trash and try to keep the school clean at recess when they have time to pick up trash. And another example is everyone gives compliments and is kind to each other at school.
And as you can see, we won't read through some of these, but these are actual submissions that students from kindergarten through 4th grade, all of these examples are from around our school. So it's great to see the big and the small things, all the way from acknowledging our bus drivers, our custodians, our crossing guards, sometimes those silent heroes that might go unrecognized some days. Next, Alice, kindness to self.
So some ways you can be kind to yourself. You can believe in the power of yet, which is basically saying just like, I can't do this, but then you add the word yet. It's more positive. And so we watched a video called The Reflection of Me. Basically the girl, she finds a way to like herself for what she is. And it has a good message, just like yourself for what you are.
And I think this was something, as we prepared for this evening, we had some interesting data that, and we've talked about this oftentimes is the hardest one. Sometimes to be kind to yourself. Sometimes we always think about what we didn't do and we hold on to things. And so when we sort of had our kickoff assembly, this was our focus this year. You know, we're very good sometimes at being kind to others, but sometimes we put ourselves last. And so that's something that we talked about the students, that don't forget that self-care and that acknowledgement that you deserve to take care of yourself and be kind to yourself sometimes as well. So this was a wonderful video. If anybody hasn't seen it, I highly recommend that you do take a moment to watch that. And Declan, you shared how many acts of kindness did we get?
10,414.
So we hit our goal. So you might be asking, what was the celebration? Well,
What was the
that's a
celebration?
great question. So Miss M, can you talk about the first part of the celebration?
Of course. All right, here's some pics. Love it. So it's very important for us to be kind to our bodies physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And that's like our big message in wellness class. And so we did that with a really long jump rope and hula hoop unit. It was very long, right, you guys? And at the very beginning of the unit, there were a lot of moans and groans. There was a lot of, I'm not gonna be able to do this. This is gonna be horrible. And then throughout the length of the unit, they really shifted their perspective and had a awesome growth mindset. They were able to really surpass their goals. They were able to track their progress individually throughout the entire length of the unit, and then at the end of the unit, every single student in the class was able to improve on their jump rope and hula hoop. And we were able to select representatives from each class, and we didn't necessarily pick the people who were the best jumpers or the best hoopers in each class, but we picked the kids who really improved and wanted to be their best self. And so it was a really cool celebration. We had a school-wide assembly of a jump off and a hoop off. And it was a cool celebration of all abilities in K through 4. And Then we got to stick Mr. Stan to the wall with duct tape. That was the best part because they reached their 10,000 acts of kindness, you can see in the bottom right corner. And we also got to pie him in the face in the bottom left corner. Wow. So that's a memory that's going to stick with them forever.
Good day.
Literally.
And that was our goal with the Stick with Kindness theme. And the students, I'm going to ask them to just go down the line here. I'll start with Sonia. Can you maybe talk about what was your favorite part of all this? Could be anything that you've done, whether making the cards or the assembly, and something about kindness. What do you want to share? Final thoughts.
My favorite part probably was watching the video about being kind to yourself, because most people really aren't kind to themselves. And
Write that one down.
RJ?
Well, so at school we have a buddy bench, and it's out at recess when anyone doesn't have like a friend to hang out with, or if they're just like bored or something and they're not feeling very good. They can sit down there and someone can find the person to play with or hang out with. So I like to hang out with people that feel lonely or whatever. And whenever I see someone on a buddy bench, no matter who it is, I always go there and help them.
Miss M, would you like to share since we're going down the line?
Sure, I would love to. I have a lot of reasons, actually, but I would say just day in and day out, just how kind these kids are. I feel like I witness like 1,000 acts of kindness a day. We actually do something cool in my class called an MVP. And so we highlight one person at the end of every class who kind of goes above and beyond to be compassionate to other people or persevere or respect other people and be responsible. And it's really cool just to see the choices that they make on a daily basis.
Alice.
My favorite part was like the kindness reward, what we got to do. My friend Tina got to pie Mr. Stan in the face. It was very fun. I lost my voice after it, but
Declan?
My favorite part is really when you make somebody like have a smile on their face. Kind of makes me have a smile on the face and makes me happy on the inside. So it's fun to spread the kindness to everybody, and I'll keep on spreading.
Nikki?
My favorite part was the assemblies because Mr. Stan kept on teaching us how to be more kind, and he gave us some PowerPoints how we can be more kind, show us how to be a good student, and yeah.
Nithya?
my favorite part was when we reached the 10,000 acts of kindness and we got the award.
And I'm going to share with you my favorite part. It might be right now, because I want to tell you how proud I am of all of you. And we had some feelings coming in here, knowing that we'd be in front of the school committee, but to have a wonderful audience like this too, and knowing that we're on TV, that we could share it with some relatives who aren't going to be here. But as I shared at the beginning, these are 6 wonderful and 7 with Ms. McMahon, and all of our teachers and students. We're just incredibly fortunate, because each day, we talk about elementary, it's a memory, and what we want to do is to promote that and kindness, and you never know the impact that one small act can have. So I will turn it over if you have any questions or comments for our ambassadors.
Any members of the committee? Questions or comments?
Thank you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for, this is a larger crowd than we normally get, so good for you for going first. And Declan, what you said around when you see other people smile, that's part of kindness. You couldn't see because your back was to most of the room, but you guys gave kindness to this entire room tonight, because at some point during your entire presentation, at least every person smiled at least once. Usually they had smiles on their face the entire evening, or at least for the entire presentation. So thank you guys for all reminding us what kindness is and what kindness can be and how powerful it always is. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, everybody. And parents, thank you for bringing them in. And thank you so much for the work you're doing, and keep paying it forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Great job. Great job.
That was awesome. That was great.
So folks, we are going to move on to open public comment. It will be perhaps a tad bumpy as I go through because I'm going to allow folks to change their order if you see other people that you want to sit with or speak with. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning, and I apologize for that, is Ms. Michelle Raymond couldn't be here tonight. But we have four other committee members, and we actually have 2 student reps here tonight. Grace, lovely to see you. Welcome back. Nathan, thank you so much for being here. And we look forward to having your presence here as much as you can in the upcoming busy months for you all. So thank you for being here. Now, moving on to open public comment. And again, I'll do my best with this. And I'm going to just say, as best I can, the names of folks are here, just so, because I don't know how acquainted people in the front are with who else is coming to speak. And I'm planning on just going down the line, but if you want to hold until somebody else comes up and speaks, or if you want to jump the queue and hop in on their point, that's fine. Mostly that's just in the interest of brevity and in trying to increase the breadth of opinions that the committee is able to hear, and try to minimize folks who are going to come up and say the exact same thing in the exact same way. So really what we're here is to try to get to maximize the amount of ideas that are put out. And so feel free to sort yourselves accordingly with that. Given the number of folks that we have here, and being moderately respectful of the time that I have on the agenda, I'm going to start a preliminary kind of speaking range of about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm not going to blow an air horn and cut you off, but I'll kind of give you a high sign when you hit the 2-minute mark, and then again at 2:30, and that's fine. There were a couple other things I wanted to throw in. Oh, and this is just by way of whatever. Folks who look really closely at the agenda note that we normally don't have this long of a period on the agenda for open public comment because, frankly, a lot of people don't come to these. So we made that longer. So thank you for being here, and B, you'll notice that the later committee discussion of the mascot, there's a notation on it on the agenda that says I.O. That means information only. And that's my way of, when I throw together the agenda, of signaling to anybody who might be coming or looking that it's not my intent as chair to call for a vote tonight. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, Ms. Raymond couldn't be with us, and she did ask that the committee wait before there be any vote, and I think that's fair. Now, the rest of the committee doesn't have to heed that request by me, but that is my request. And the other thing is just it's been the bent of this committee that when there is a presentation that has a lot of new information and a lot of perspectives, we'd prefer not to vote that same meeting, and especially with a matter that's not urgent or pressing in any way, such as the mascot issue, and understanding that most people who are here for open public comment are here for the mascot issue. So I just wanted to put that out there at the outset. And thank you all for coming. Now, I will ask, totally just avoiding the queue here, is there anybody here for open public comment who had a topic that they like to speak to that was not related to the mascot? You're a blessing of consistency. That's great. And with that, Mr. Foley, I'm conscious that your name is first. I'm going to just go ahead and give you the choice, man. I'll hold for a little bit. That's fine. And so what that was, folks, what you just caught, that side conversation, is Mr. Ian Foley had either his name was there first, so I call him first, but he had requested maybe to go a bit later and speak at the same time that some of the other students from Foxborough are here too, and that's okay. Thanks. All right, so next up on the list we have, actually I said I'd say the names. We have Ian Foley, who will elect to speak later, Christine Freeman, Heather Harding, AJ Dooley, Larry Stern, Chris Farmer, Lauren Topping, Don Cotter, Tony Sullivan, Paul Dumas, Gregory Simone, Austin Philbin, forgive me if I mess up the handwriting reading, Bill Cook, Kayla Palmer, Brian Gould, and Jamie Kelly. So that's who I had on the docket. And so now you all know, and Mr. Stephen Uden was there too, and I was supposed to know that. All right, so I'm just going to start up at the top with Christine Freeman.
I'd like to wait and listen.
That's fine. Ms. Heather Harding?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, and then other just matters, the same stuff we said to the students who spoke so beautifully before. If you want to stand up there, you can. You can also just sit at the chair, be comfortable. The mics are hot either way. If there's a group of you, do consider piling up at the table and just make sure you can be heard, because it's mostly for the recording. We can hear you in the room, but since it is part of the public record, we want to make sure the stuff is recorded. Ms. Harding.
This is nerve-wracking. I'm here speaking on behalf of a whole group of people so that
Fine.
hopefully we will keep it moving instead of having a dozen of us come up. Can you not hear me okay? Is that better? All right. Heather Harding, 14 North High Street. So I just wanted to make a couple of points. The state legislature has been debating this for years, and they've yet to pass a bill. You know, Bill 247 didn't pass. Another bill was filed January 18th. That has not come up for a vote yet. You know, presumably this is because there's consensus on both sides of the aisle that not all Native American names, logos, and mascots are derogatory and need to be banned. There's a bill that was filed in Colorado by the Native American Guardian Association, and it argues that the complete erasure of Native American imagery is not beneficial, and that the use of positive and respectful Native American symbols and mascots in schools honors the group, helps neutralize offensive stereotypes, and teaches the public about Native American history. Now, you guys say that you're not trying to erase history, you're not going to remove the championship banners in the gym or redo the scoreboards of the gym floor, and I believe you, I really do. But if you ban our mascot because you find it offensive or disparaging, how can you then justify leaving any of those images up for the students and visitors to have to look at? I would ask that you wait and see where the state ends up on this issue. If the state mandates a change, it seems likely that they will provide then some funding to cover any associated costs. If you choose to move forward now, it's an unfunded mandate, and the taxpayers would have to pay any of the costs associated with this. And, you know, the Warrior mascot, it's not just our school mascot. It's represented in so many aspects of our community. I mean, Tammy's store, the Clean Up Foxborough Day t-shirts, the Alumni Association. We have decades of history from when we first embraced our current respectful Native American mascot with the intent to honor Native Americans. As you guys pointed out, the issue isn't just related to our school sports, and it shouldn't be debated and decided, in my opinion, solely by the school committee, although clearly it's under the purview of your S3 policy duties. This is a town-wide discussion, I think, and you guys could support that by voting to take no action, and you could let the town citizens take it up at the polls with a non-binding referendum, and then you could take the lead from us. There are arguably just as many Native Americans and articles that you can find that speak to the importance of keeping the names and the mascots. You know, I did look at our high school course curriculum, and I didn't see one class offered on the history of Native Americans. I'm sure it's woven throughout the classes, but I, for one, would like to see more focus on that issue than this issue. I did email you guys the community poll results, so I know you know them. There were two polls. One showed 96% of the people wanted to keep it exactly as is. The other poll, which gave a third option of keeping the name but ditching the logo, 86% of those people said they still wanted to keep both. Just finally, you know, to sum up, I know I'm going to go a bit over, but as I said, I'm representing like a dozen people, so I didn't want to make everybody else get up. From watching the last school committee meeting, I understand that Mr. Canfield asked for this topic to be brought up, not because you've received overwhelming complaints from Native Americans or students, or because of the state legislation, but simply because he wanted it discussed for other reasons, stated as past comments in history. That is absolutely his prerogative. I just hope that we can adequately express to you why we hope it will not go any further. In closing, I would ask that you take time to consider everything that everybody presents here to you tonight, and that you will vote to keep our name and mascot as is, or at least that you will wait to see what our state recommends, where the Colorado lawsuit ends up, because it looks like that's heading to the Supreme Court on a freedom of speech issue. And in the meantime, you know, put out a poll online so people can weigh in. Form a subcommittee made up of teachers, coaches, students, Native Americans, you know, see what they feel, similar to Mayor Wu's subcommittee to study reparations. So thank you for your time.
Ms. Harding? Ms. Harding? Ms. Harding? Yes. One of the things I had said, okay, so I should have also said this at the beginning. I'm new at this. Is the open public comment, the way it works, and it's kind of on the back of our agenda, is it's a time for people just to do that, open public comment. And it's not a discussion, a back and forth. But tradition of the committee is if a member has a clarifying question that they want to ask, that go for it. And I believe Mr. Canfield has a clarifying question. So there you go.
So thank you, Heather. For the polls with the percentages, what was the actual number of votes?
I can tell you. Hang on. Okay, so,
Come to the,
sorry.
that's okay.
That's okay, yeah. It's
All right,
just-
I didn't want to go over time, that's why I didn't tell you.
No, you're
But I'll tell
fine.
you.
You're fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the two
Thank you.
polls. The first poll was my poll, it was on Uptown Happenings, so that had 96% voted they wanted to keep it exactly as is, which were 876 out of 907 votes.
Okay.
The second poll, and just to clarify, the reason why I only gave two people two options was simply because, Mr. Canfield, you stated, we need to consider the history of the name and what it does from a cultural bias standpoint. So I wanted to make sure that people understood it was both. The second poll was put up by Mr. Plummer. He put that on Foxborough Discussion. He gave a third compromise option of keep the name, ace the logo. And that poll got 664 votes, so 86% of them. So 568 out of 664 wanted to keep it exactly as is.
Thank you.
12%, 78 wanted it changed.
Thank you. And how many, do you have a way of validating that all of those voters are actual voting members or residents of the town of Foxborough?
I don't on the Foxborough Discussion one. I do on mine, only because as the admin, I can see every person's name and click on them and see what they are in Facebook.
Okay, and of those 900 or so, do you know the percentage that are actually Foxborough residents currently?
I do not.
Okay.
Nope, I just know that they, in order to get into the Uptown Happenings, they have to either be from Foxborough or have a close tie to Foxborough.
Correct.
So.
And then my final question to you is, do you know the entire population of the town of Foxborough?
17,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. And thank you, Ms. Harding.
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Bertos, clarifying question?
just anytime there's written remarks, we need to make sure that we have a copy for the record.
Thank you. And if you happen to have those with you, please, you can give them to Janet. Otherwise, we can put you two in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, thanks. And then, no. And similar to this being recorded, anytime you send us an email, community inbox, or you bring a statement here, that's all part of the public record. So there's that. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Where's my list? Great. AJ Dooley, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Excuse me. My name is AJ Dooley, 75 Ridge Road, Foxborough. I'll start off by saying born and raised in town, and I am a warrior. I believe that very strongly, and when I look out here, I see a lot of warriors that I grew up with, and I see a lot of people who moved into the town and raised warriors like my parents did me. My main reason for being here tonight is I want to speak on some factual stuff about me watching the video from when you guys brought it up at the last meeting. And Michelle, I'm sorry, what's the last name? Michelle Raymond, I'm sorry about that. Michelle Raymond was quoted by saying that it was evident that the indigenous-inspired symbols are phasing themselves out over time. And if you look at the message from the students and the coaches, that they are basically stop using the logo. So as a coach in the town, I've been coaching sports in town for well over 25 years. I've been at the high school for 14. With that comment, I want to make it very clear that, so back during COVID, in the spring of 2020, our current athletic director, Joe Cusack, approached all of the head coaches of all the different sports programs. We have actually some head coaches and some coaches in the stands here. Approached them all and told them that we were phasing out the logo, that we were no longer going to use it. I actually spoke to Michelle just prior to the meeting, and I told her this, and I told her what I was going to speak about, and her comment was, very interesting. So I'd like to just take this a little step further, and because since I saw that, I sent out a text message to pretty much every single head coach in town. The majority of them are from Foxborough, and they are Warriors. And they coach like Warriors, and they have Warriors playing for them. And that's male sports, female sports, and everything. And basically, we were told that we were no longer allowed to use this logo. So I went back to Joe Cusack last night, and I reached out to him, and I said, you have phased out this logo since 2020. I don't think that you made this decision, Joe. Who told you to phase out the logo? When did it happen, and where did it start? He was thrown back a little bit. I made it very clear to him, Joe, I'm not coming after you on this. This is very important to me. So he said, well, I'm not really sure who told me specifically, but it was one of two people. It was the superintendent, Ms. Beardos, or business, I'm sorry, I'm not, whatever. Yeah, Bill Euchner, I know that, but I'm not sure on his title. He said one of them said it, but they were both definitely in the room, is what he said. So I say to the members of the committee, you guys are going to vote on this, whether it's next week, the following week, or whatever, and it's up to you guys to say whether or not this logo stays or not. And I understand that. What I really want to know is, over the last 3 years, I feel as if the kids have been gypped, and they've been basically pointed in a direction that we're no longer going with this logo. And I really don't think, and I say this as respectful as I can. We see each other in town, we're respectful to each other. I think you're a phenomenal superintendent. I'd like to know where you guys got the right to start phasing it out. And I feel like we got a bunch of kids here who are gypped of the real true pride of being a Warrior and whatnot. And I think it's terrible. And so, I just really wanted to state the facts. I could go on forever about this. If this logo goes, the kid RJ talked about the buddy bench. Hopefully someone comes and sits next to me when I'm sitting on the buddy bench, because this is gonna really upset me. All right? So, and you know what? You guys took Mr. Stanton out of the IGO. So he was a great principal for my kids. And now he's down at the Taylor, and maybe he'll look out the window and see the lonely IGO parent down there, and he'll come sit next to me. But it's a joke, but you know what? It's real stuff, and I am very, very prideful of this, and whether it goes or not, I'm going to wear it around town every single day. Anyone who knows me, I wear this with the most proud. And, in the world that we live in right now, whether you got the planet, you got the country, you got the town, you got the state, you got a town, like, we don't need a divide here. And this will be a big divide. And I'm not saying that, as a threatening, like this is going to be a divide. I'm saying it with passion. This town, we are all together, and we are all Warriors. You all moved here for a reason, right? None of you, I don't think, you were in town, but you all moved here for a reason. This is a great town, and the Warrior logo it's not a logo, it's a way of life.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stern?
Give this out as long as it doesn't get graded as an English essay.
Thanks. Don't worry. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to sit because I can't stand and speak at the same time. Okay. All right, so everything I have here is off the internet, and we all know that everything on the internet is correct.
All true.
So if we have that basis from the beginning, I think we'll be great. All right, from the beginning, the Foxborough settlers have, as far as we know, respected and treated with honor their relationship with Native Americans, where in a letter to the editor, which could be published Thursday, Jack Arthurlet reviews the history of Native American relations with the settlers of the area who willfully purchased the land and used Native American language to name our natural resources such as the Neponset Reservoir, Miramichi, and Cocasset. The relationship and the agreed-upon land boundaries are memorialized on a historic marker that today is at the end of South Street, Grove Street, and Cedar Street where they intersect, just a couple miles from where we sit. Back as far as the early 70s, at a minimum, we've seen evidence that the warrior name and various Native American figures were used as a sign of pride and honor. We've seen no evidence otherwise or anything of a derogatory nature. We are the Warriors, which happens to be one of the most popular high school mascot names in the country, with a Native American flair. We're not offensive, controversial. We don't have names like the Redskins, the Red Raiders, Savages, or other. Our current logo was brought by our beloved football coach, Jack Martinelli, in the early 80s, which looks to be close to an exact reproduction of the Native American on the Buffalo nickel. I don't know if anybody's seen that. You hear that it's the Redskins logo. Then the Redskins got it from the Native American nickel. It's identical. You should check them out. The directive nationally is to get rid of offensive caricatures which convey racial stereotyping and violence. This does not. In fact, also detailed in Jack's article is the position of a local Native American leader who is active on the mascot issue on a national level and says when asked about the Foxborough logo, "You are not on my horizon." She saw no problem in our recognition of the Native Americans and the respect we showed. I'll go on. There's a letter from David Smith, a former FHS graduate who is part Native American, where he goes on to say he never experienced racism or bullying, and where he interprets our mascot as the image of a lone, stoic Native American symbolizing individual inner strength to rise to whatever you are faced with and meet the challenge.
Just as a heads up, Larry, that's 3 minutes. Keep going.
Is it really?
Yeah.
1 page? All right, well, bear with me. Do we know of any occurrences at all of a Native American Foxborough school attendee who has expressed any racism or oppressive feelings as a result of our logo? Is it a problem now? The movement on a state level to legislate this issue has not gone anywhere. Why would it? Our own Massachusetts state flag and seal have the image of a Native American contained within. If you could look behind you, you'll see it. Why would that be different than what we are facing? We won't talk again about the state of Colorado. Heather did a good job with that. Another one important issue I just want to point out here. Other towns in the Commonwealth have faced this issue, some making changes and some have not. Witness the Dartmouth Indians, who went out of their way to consult the Wampanoag tribe of Gayhead, the most prominent tribe in southeastern Massachusetts. The tribe chairwoman, Cheryl Andrews Maltese, said, while her tribe opposes derogatory images of Native Americans, a blunt and blanketed approach to banning all Native American mascots outright would prevent schools from ever developing a respectful and dignified way to represent and honor the culture. Okay? Let's see, where are we? She also stressed the need for collaboration at the local level, such collaboration between the tribes and towns and of local school systems would only uplift Indigenous students. It would provide a platform to better educate Native and non-Native students regarding the tremendous contributions American Indians, Alaskan Natives, and Native Hawaiians have made and continue to make. Got a half a page left.
No.
At a school committee meeting, Superintendent of Schools in Dartmouth, Dr. Bonnie Gifford, announced that the district was in contact with the tribe to determine how to use the high school's Indian logo to honor the history of Indigenous people. They made some changes to the logo, and they kept it intact. It's the Dartmouth Indians. It's a picture of a Native American chief, if you will, full headdress, etc. Other towns are facing the issue as far as we know. There are still greater than 20 towns with mascots of a Native American nature in the state. As I'm sure you know, prior superintendents and school committees that some of you have been part of, in fact, Mr. Pearson, you're mentioned specifically, had chosen not to address the topic as it did not propose an issue or it just wasn't a priority at the point. Why is it now? Some would ask, was this issue mentioned as part of any committee member's campaign platform? A year ago, there was this very heated campaign. I don't remember seeing this as part of anybody's platform, and it's a pretty strong issue. Last paragraph. The initial issue which prompted me to write this post, to write a post for the much-acclaimed Foxborough Discussion Facebook group, was the process to make such a significant change. I wondered, how does a school committee have the power? After doing the research, I determined that you do, by the way.
We do.
But why would you? Why would you in a vacuum? One could argue that even this process is not remotely enough to consider all the data. I mean, there was a notice. The agenda item for this meeting was further discussion of FPS Mascot. Anybody reading that? Yes.
Nothing. I was just going to implore you to wrap up.
Yep. I have 3 sentences.
It's okay.
That really could mean anything. I wonder, is there a school council, a student council, athletic or booster club, or maybe non-binding town poll? Could this be an opportunity to educate for both sides? The best way to build town spirit is with communication and consensus. Maybe there's a solution that'll make everybody happy. Well, the word solution suggests there's a problem. Is there?
Thank you, Mr. Stern.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chris Farmer.
Or not?
It's fine. You can talk. You can yield. You can. You wouldn't. You wouldn't be the first.
I do it every meeting. So.
You wouldn't be the first.
Sorry, I wasn't kind of expecting to be here tonight. I just decided to come on the spur of the moment. So,
thank you.
Anyway,
Thanks for coming. Go ahead.
So, let's see. This is my friend's classes. I had to borrow her phone to type on. So unprepared. I just wanted to say that I'm a proud Indigenous person that lives in Foxborough for the past 30 years. So I thought I would express my opinion, expecting that I am probably closer to this topic than any one of you. I know that I am one of the very few people in this town who is actually Indigenous. And if you look on our census, it says we're 0. 0. Okay? So to look at that and say, how do I feel about that is pretty sad. Again, oh no, I'm going to cry. I have to say that my children were also warriors. They grew up here in this town. They wore those warrior logos, and it's very important to them as well. Hope I remember your code. I just feel like, watching my children wear those, it's the only part of this town that I can say was part of us and part of our heritage. Nowhere else around can you say that. I feel like, there's, it's not a derogatory depiction of a group that could be caused for removal. Completely wiping out all remnants of the people is a different story. Our pride doesn't come from these symbols. It comes from our culture and belief. We honor ourselves by honoring our land, not by worshiping ideas that don't serve us as good people. History is past and retribution is upon us, but that's not the point of tonight. It's whether or not the name and the logo is offensive. And I'm here to say that out of all the Indigenous people that I reached out to about this topic, all felt the same as me. As long as people are using it respectfully, it doesn't matter. There are bigger issues to deal with at this time. This is gonna sound rude, but I don't care who founded Foxborough. It was never lost. There was people here way, way before the founder came and other people came. We've disappeared. To take away this symbol is another way to make us disappear. I don't know, I guess that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Farmer. Next up, we have Ms. Lauren Topping. Welcome, Ms. Topping.
Hello. I have kind of an incomplete, mine didn't follow through as I'd liked, but I was questioning why we didn't have, and now we do, Indigenous people with their input, putting their input into the logo, whether it should stay or go. So I made a call to the Plymouth Wampanoag Council, and I spoke to Carlton Hendricks. And I'm right in the middle. I wasn't necessarily before, and I didn't want to try, for or against. I didn't want to try to influence him in any way, and I told him that. And he said to me, well, it depends on what the logo looks like. I was telling him about the logo.
Sure.
He said, can you send them to me? And I did. And he said, I'm not necessarily against them. So he told me, the only thing that happened, though, is he told me he would get back to me. And I waited, and I won't tell you the process of days, and it took a while. So I called him, and he said he was at the doctor's, and, I didn't want to push him. Another couple of days went by. I still didn't hear from him, and I messaged him, and he told me that he was turning this over to the actual chairperson named Brian Whedon, and he would get back to me, or I could contact him. So all the information was forwarded to him, and all the background information and the logos, and they didn't get back to us. So I don't know. It's just a question, a thought. He did say to me, it depends on what they look like. So I don't know if he thought that they were fine and they didn't want to get into this, because it is controversial among Indigenous people. I did a lot of research online too. A lot of people are for it. A lot of people aren't for it. I've read exactly what the other people are saying, that people are basically, Indigenous people are basically invisible, and this makes them at least have something, some acknowledgement to be proud of. And I read about the teaching, that it would be nice to incorporate more Native American teachings into our regular curriculum in the schools. So I don't have much to say, but I think maybe silence says something. I was kind of thinking they might show up, but like as a surprise, but they didn't, but they were formally invited. So, the chair people.
Thank you.
And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Cotter. Don Cotter, if you're here. Welcome, Mr. Cotter.
Hi, excuse me, Don Cotter. I live at 70 Fairway Lane in Foxborough. A lot of my thoughts for this evening have already been said by most of the people that have been up, so I won't repeat. I did want to just talk briefly about the thought of really, and hearing you speak on this at the last meeting, there are two issues. One that's been talked about quite a bit tonight regarding the Native American imagery, and I think that's been covered quite extensively, so again, I won't speak to that. I will make one comment to piggyback on A.J. Dooley's being involved with many things in the town through the years. Lived here over 45 years. I have 2 kids in the high school. My wife's a teacher. We've been involved in booster clubs, all kinds of stuff. I will say that the messaging currently from the schools on using the warrior is very confusing. I've heard different things from different people. I'm not going to go into the conversations, but I will reiterate that there's been things that my kids have gotten with warriors on it and some with Fs, so I think that needs to be clarified. The second piece that I want to talk about is the nickname warrior, and there was some discussion on that last week. The warrior nickname is not offensive. The name is not offensive. There are hundreds of examples. One example of it is the Golden State Warriors have been the Warriors since 1946. The name continues to be utilized by that franchise, maybe one of the most famous franchises in the world, and there's no discussion whatsoever to take that name away. I'll also say that the name warrior and the warrior mentality, I think, is just so much of what we've been through over the last 3 years, not just as, in this town specifically. I mean, we shut down 3 years ago. The world shut down, right? And the warrior mentality is actually defined as the ability to face challenges head on with courage and determination. And I look at you as school committee members, the leaders of the community, superintendent, teachers, students. I mean, every single person in this town has exuded a warrior mentality, and we've come out on the other side. So to me, if we're gonna think about taking the name warrior, I'm not talking about the imagery. I'm just saying there's not a word in the English language, in my mind, that represents what this town is in its history, but more specifically in the last 3 years than warrior. I don't know what is. So I would just implore you to vote to keep the warrior name in perpetuity. We are Foxboro Warriors. Thank you.
Tony Salha. Welcome.
First, I don't really have all the facts or like the nitty-gritty stuff that everyone else has, but kind of just speaking on behalf of a lot of people. So, good evening, concerned people of the town of Foxborough. My name is Anthony Selham, and I am here on behalf of the preservation of the Foxborough High School logo and name. As of today, Tuesday, March 21st, the members of Foxborough High School are proud to wear the Warrior logo on our chest and helmet during high school sports like football. I am here to represent the Foxborough High School football team, as I am one of the captains of the Foxborough Warriors for the upcoming 2023 season. I would like to speak on behalf of all of my fellow Warriors when I say we would all be devastated to have our logo stripped away from us like this. This logo we wear with pride represents a generation of people who played before us. This logo runs deep within our town, and I believe it shines light on Native Americans all around rather than bringing them down. While I wrap up my speech, which now that I read it is very short, I would like to leave you all with this message. This logo that is up for debate isn't intended to be racist, nor do most Native Americans, like one that has spoken, perceive it in this way. In other words, if you believe that it is a racist representation of Native Americans, then should we ban lacrosse? Lacrosse is a sport made by Native Americans that we play for fun, as well in honor of those who played it and created it before us. This is similar to how we play with the logo on our football helmets to represent those who played before us. In conclusion, the logo represents a small town with an overflowing amount of pride for their town and people who put their blood, sweat, and tears into proudly representing the Warrior logo. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Paul Dumas. Welcome, Mr. Dumas.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Paul Dumas, 4 Adams Street. And I'm very proud to stand up here. I put my name on the list, but I didn't know if I wanted to talk or not. I was so impressed by Heather, AJ, and the other speakers. I came in here with a mindset of no change. I haven't heard anybody speak for it from the audience, and I'd be glad to defer my time if there's anybody in the audience that wants to take over the podium now. Good. I sat at your table for 6 years, and other town committees, over 25 years on other town committees, not counting the Foxborough Youth Baseball, the church stuff, the softball, the Legion stuff that I've been involved with. I think you've all heard this. You got important stuff to deal with on the education of all our kids. I hope you wrap it up tonight. No further action is what I recommend. Thank you.
Gregory Smo. That's fine. And like, this is, folks, just a reminder, if you're here with somebody or you realize, before they speak, that you're here with somebody, feel free to just come on up, okay? Because again, the idea is, so we'd like to hear a breadth of voices, and we don't necessarily need to hear repetitions of the same thing. So it's fine to have groups of folks. So welcome, gentlemen. Oh, sorry, what's your name, sir?
Ryan Fasella.
Thank you, Brian. Welcome.
My name is Gregory Simone, and this is Ryan Fasella. We're two of the 3 boys tennis team captains for Foxborough. So on behalf of the boys tennis team, the iconic Foxborough Warriors logo should stay. It's a logo that we grew up with, the logo that has stayed with us forever, the logo that we all love. A warrior is someone who fights and is brave. And when competing with other towns, our logo serves as a warning that they will have a tough challenge to overcome if they wish to beat the town of Foxborough. I think that removing the logo will be disrespectful to the people who live on this land, old and new. It would be wrong to try to cover up and erase history of this land that we live on today. The Warriors logo stands for more than the Native Americans who lived on this land. It represents us, the town of Foxborough, the wonderful community that we built and love. Thank you.
Austin Philbin. Thanks. And gentlemen, do you mind just saying both of your names?
I'm Austin Philbin.
I'm Andrew Finn.
Thank you, Andrew.
Dear friends, family, and school committee members of Foxborough, my name is Austin Philbin, a Foxborough Warrior who has lived here for 18 years. I'm a senior at Foxborough High, a former football captain, and a co-president of SAG Club. I'd like to thank you all for giving me a chance to talk about something so important to me and other people in the community. As you all know, there's been a recent discussion about changing the Warrior logo, which has been a symbol of our town for many years. Some people argue that the logo is offensive and promotes negative stereotypes, while me and others believe that it is a beloved symbol that represents our town, strength, and resilience. However, I'm here today to urge you all to consider the many reasons why we should not change the Warrior logo. Firstly, the Warrior logo has been a part of our town's identity for decades. It has become a symbol with our local sports teams, our school, and our community as a whole. Changing the logo would be a drastic and unnecessary move that could cause confusion among residents and visitors alike. Changing our logo will shut a chapter in our community, whether it's a state championship, Davenport title, or the many rivalry games played with the Warrior on our chest. Moreover, the Warrior logo does not promote negative stereotypes. In fact, the logo is a representation of a proud, noble figure who embodies the qualities that we strive for as a community, such as strength and courage. Furthermore, changing the logo would be costly, which would require extensive rebranding efforts and the creation of a new logo. This would be a waste of valuable resources that could be better spent on improving our town's infrastructure or supporting our local businesses. Lastly, changing the Warrior logo would erase an important part of our town's history and heritage. The logo has been a part of our town's identity for generations and is a symbol of our shared values and traditions. By changing the logo, we risk losing an important piece of our town's story and culture. In conclusion, I urge you all to consider the many reasons why we should keep the Warrior logo as the symbol of our town. It is a beloved and cherished symbol that represents our community's values and traditions, and changing it could be a costly and unnecessary move that could have negative consequences. Let us continue to embrace the Warrior logo as a symbol of our town's strength and resilience and celebrate the unique identity and heritage of Foxborough. Thank you.
I just wanted to quickly touch back on what Coach Dooley had to say and the way that us and as football players, I was a football captain this past year along with Austin, and the way we wear the logo, it has nothing to do with disrespect in any way. If it was disrespectful in any way or form, I mean, you can step outside. We wear it on our chest with pride. It's on the back of half of our cars. You walk into the high school, half the kids have it on every single day. There's no disrespect meant in the way we wear it and the way we use it. And like he said, even if you were to take it away from us, you can never take the pride that we use with it and the way we live life like a warrior. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Bill Cook? Bill Cook?
Hey, he's not here.
Okay.
I don't see him.
It's fine. If, folks, if you do see him pop back in, just give him the high sign. Let me know, please. Thank you. Kayla Palmer?
Hi, I'm Kyla Palmer. I'm a senior
Kyla,
at
sorry.
Foxborough High School.
Thank you, Ms. Palmer. Welcome.
I believe you should keep the name Warriors, but change the logo. The word warrior represents strength, courage, bravery, and pride, and belongs to all people, not just Native people. But the image, with the sloping forehead and big nose, is racist and represents none of those great qualities. I think our logo makes us look foolish to other towns. We have a strong name and strong teams paired with a logo that is a derogatory stereotype. I'm relieved that all the teams I've been on at Foxborough High School do not have that logo on their uniforms. Professional teams and many school districts across North America have already changed their racist Native logos and names, and we should stop lagging behind. We should not wait until we are forced by legislation to do this. Let's set a good example right now. Changing the logo does not mean abandon the history and tradition of the Foxborough Warriors, but would just carry our traditions and pride into the current times. We are taught to respect other races and cultures, but then see this racist image all over our team clothes and school facilities. It's contradictory and sends the wrong message to our students. Thank you.
Brian Gill? Welcome. Welcome, Brian.
Sorry, buddy. Hey, committee members, Brian Guild, 16 Windsor Drive. Thanks for the opportunity. It occurs to me that, the school committee decides and places votes based on your authority to do so. I also think that when you make the decision, you should probably make the decision based on how everybody in the community feels, including Indigenous people. To that end, we actually reached out to 4 different tribes in this area that occupy this land previously. 315, all the way through the evening of 316, nobody has replied to us on any of those inquiries. So the inquiry was as follows. There's an upcoming discussion planned for Foxborough School Committee meeting on 3/21 related to the school mascot, to changing the school mascot to one less resembling the Indigenous people of the area. Would a member of the council like to come to the meeting and offer constructive feedback on the symbolism of said logo? And then I actually gave a link to the logo as it stands today. I said to them, my goal in asking you to speak is to weigh in on if the council finds this symbol to be offensive to the council members. In other words, should the symbol be changed and why? I said, I firmly believe that we must solicit opinions directly from the descendants of the people personally depicted by these symbols. And I said, thank you for your time and consideration, respectfully, right? This was sent to the Massachusetts tribe. It was sent to the Narragansett Indian Nation. It was sent to Nipmuc Nation. And it was also sent to the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. Like I said, as of this evening, there have been no communications back from the tribe. You can decide how you feel about that. To me, I just think the fact that they haven't replied means that they don't want to weigh in. They don't feel it's controversial, okay? With that said, I'm in support of keeping the symbol, but I really would implore that the committee ask for opinions directly from the people who are affected by said symbolism. I think if we don't do that, we're doing a disservice to everybody here in the community of Foxborough, and I also think without soliciting their opinion, you're doing a disservice to the people who are depicted. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian. Jamie Kelly?
Good evening, committee. How you doing? Jamie. Yep.
And Tricia Slattery.
Yeah,
Thank
Jamie
you both
Kelly.
for saying your names.
Sorry, Jamie Kelly, 9 Connie Drive. And to be honest, I've had this conversation over the last couple of weeks as I sit in the stands at the basketball games and watching our girls basketball team once again win another state championship. And I'm something I was a part of in '95 myself. Born and raised and been here for almost 46 years. I could be right there with AJ, and I could be talking about this for a very long time. It's who we are. It is a way of life, AJ. I 100% agree with you. It is, quite frankly, a reason why I live here. If I wanted to be an eagle, I'd live in Sharon. If I wanted to be a bulldog, I'd live in Canton. It's not. I've been raising my children, and it's a staple. It's kind of who I am. And I say a lot, come on. I do. I firmly believe I bleed blue and gold. And that's all I needed to hear. This woman is so courageous to stand here and defend her heritage. And I thought, there's our answer. Their heritage deserves to be kept alive, and they don't feel that way. I wanted to hear from somebody that an Indigenous person that I was offending, and I don't believe I've been offending you. I have worn that. I have all of my athletic gear has warriors on it, Foxborough Warriors and warrior heads, and why can't it be looked at as a way of power and courage and having courage and victory. And that's how I think it needs to be looked at. We fight every day on an athletic field, and that's who we are. We've always been warriors, and we've always wanted to, and that's what we stand for. And I'm raising my children that way. I have 2 young daughters, and my daughter said it no better just recently. Mama, you're wearing that warrior again? And I say yes, and someday you are going to be a warrior. And whether you want to cheerlead or play basketball or kick a soccer ball, it's been pride. It's been who we are. And I think it's a way of life. I 100% think it's a way of life. And I understand where Donnie's coming, like, oh, can we just keep the warrior? And I get that, but that head, it's never been to offend anybody. It's strength, it's power, it's state championships. It's why we have fought and wear blue and gold and have it all over our clothes. It's because we are proud of it. Not that we're trying to offend you or anybody. And it's bigger fish to fry, like special ed and mental health. And I don't think something that we all in this room, a lot of people in this room have stood for. So many athletes, they don't deserve to be gypped. They fight every day to win games. And that's what the Warrior has stood for, to try to win games and have victory. Okay, so I think it's a terrible disservice to the people that coach and have led their teams to state championships or any victory or any games. And I just think it's a shame, and I think that we should stand by it. And I think AJ would get a new bench to sit on that will paint blue and gold, and it'll have a big warrior on it, and anybody can join us, because there's no reason for something like this to be taken away for fine. Like, kids are being,
Thank you.
committed all the time to, they're doing bad things. Let them be proud of who they play for, and have a warrior, because it represents victory, and it is a way of life.
Stephen Uden?
Was there somebody that yielded, and, like, I'm at the end of the line, so is there anybody else that bowed out and wants to go ahead of me? 'Cause they're
We had Bill Cook. Looks like
Christine Freeman, and then the young man in the back.
Thank you. That's fine. Go ahead. Thanks, Mr. Foley.
I'm Ian Foley.
I'm Ryan Cotter.
We are both captains for the basketball team for the upcoming 2023 and 2024 season. We both strongly believe that the warrior symbol and the name warrior should stay. If we take both of these away, we're depriving the future generation of Foxborough. Growing up, we both pride ourselves on being warriors and being taught and instilled of hard work and dedication, which both of these, being called a warrior and the sign, instills in you. A warrior puts others before themselves. In the Bible, it states that a warrior is a man of integrity and sacrifice, and being a warrior is special. I think this proves exactly how you want to raise your children. You want to raise them to be brave, strong, and be putting others before themselves. In basketball, I'm not the best shooter, passer, dribbler, but what I do really well is I work hard. I'll get the extra rebound, and I'll hustle every play. I tell you this because that's been instilled in me since day one of being a warrior. I moved here from another town, Medway, and I came here when I was around 4 years old. And since then, it's been driven into me that being a warrior is a good thing. You fight for what you believe in, and yeah, I think that both the symbol and the name warrior should stay, because if you're taking it away, the future generation of Foxborough might not have the same values that have been instilled in me and Ryan, and it puts them at a disadvantage going into the world. Thank you.
I would just like to add to what Ian was saying. This warrior head and the warrior name is a connection for me to my family. My father, my uncle, and my aunt all wore this warrior logo a long time ago, and they wore it with pride. I would love to share that pride with them and all that passion. All this passion that we have as a community is a positive thing to the Native Americans, and we're honoring them with wearing this logo. Because we, as a Foxborough community at the high school and overall, represent hard work and dignity. And I think as warriors, we would be doing the Native Americans a shame if we took away this logo. That's all.
Christine Freeman. Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to get a little emotional. It's been an emotional night. First of all, I just want to say how proud I am of each and every person in this room for speaking out tonight. You are true warriors in every sense of the word. Even the kids from the Taylor School talking about kindness, that's what a warrior is. A warrior is someone who's brave, who's courageous, who helps others, who thinks of others before thinking of themselves. It is that person who goes to the bunny bench and looks for that kid that needs that person. Sorry, I'm getting so emotional. Obviously, I've lived in Foxborough my whole life. As you know, my dad was on this committee for 1 year shy of 5 decades. And he loved this town so very much. And probably what he loved most about it was the schools. He felt very strongly that if you build a good school system, they will come. And boy, have they come. Some of us stay in town, some of us come to town, and one of the biggest reasons I think that is for the school system. And listening to these kids tonight has just been so moving. And I guess what I'd like to say is, this is history, right? There's good parts of history, there's beautiful parts of history, and some parts are bad, and some parts are horrific. But we need to learn all about that history, and we can't rewrite or change that history. We can't change it. But moving forward, we can learn from history and hopefully not repeat the bad parts. And imagine for a moment if you could change history. Think about that. If you could change history, what would you change? Well, tonight, I wouldn't change a thing. I applaud, like I said, each and every single one of you who got up here tonight. I especially applaud Christine Poole Farmer. Very moving. I was a teacher for a number of years. My first job out of college was in Mashpee, and I learned a lot about Native Americans, things I had just never thought about. it's eye-opening. But it was so wonderful to hear from Christine, someone who is a Native American, and she's telling us that she's been here and she chose this town to raise her family, and that's what it's all about. It's about family and being a good neighbor. And I just think that's what that symbol is. It's about, it is a way of life. It's not just a symbol. And to take it one step further, yes, you see it on athletic uniforms, but also those lessons that high school kids learn, they carry with them. You know, I think back in history, you know, during World War II, there were high school seniors that never got to graduate. They left and went afar. And they carried that warrior spirit with them. That warrior spirit, like those kids said, even if it changes, you don't take it out of us. It's part of who we are. So I would like to speak to say, please keep the warrior the way it is, and please keep us the warriors, because that's who we are. Thank you very much.
Mr. Uden.
Oh, I'm up?
You are, in fact, up.
Thank you. Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, I've had the pleasure of volunteering on 2 school boards, and I know just what it's like to face the room this way as it is facing this way. It's not easy. And I'd also like to open by thanking our staff, who, for those of us who don't know, are actually working a late night. Even though they're paid, it's a long night, and they probably want to get home and watch, I don't know, The Mandalorian or something like that. A lot of what has been said boils down to me, for my opinion, and I still maintain it, don't change a thing. That's my opinion, not my demand. The other thing is, from past meetings, and there may need to be some color put in this for the general public, but is how this came about. There have been tremors of the discussion of this, both at the state level and here in town. But I'm looking at it as it bursting through and now becoming an issue that's requiring action, energy, aggravation. So I would suggest that this board consider the question of having a school subcommittee to address the question to bring to the board, and the question is this: should we even touch this? And you can do all the due diligence and have experts and anthropologists and sociologists and every other manner of expertise consult the board and do it in a very public manner, and then come back and decide whether or not you want to talk about it, because the board right now is talking about it. And even though the last meeting it was said that there may be a vote as soon as tonight, and respectfully, Mr. Chair, I know you've changed it to an IO, an information only. There'll be no action unless there's activity here on the board. But that's my first and only, that's my opening. I do want to talk about the empowerment that the board, well, I'll do my best, respectfully. The board is empowered, at least as I understand it, to make this decision. But you're not coronated, okay? And you don't have to address this issue. And in some cases, it seems to me arrogant that it's being poked in the eye of our town right now when it's not mandated from the state. And the lovely lady that spoke about the imagery, respectfully, she spoke very well, but I see that character as a noble, strong character a lot of people in this town want to be like. I don't think it's a cartoon. But I'll say this, and then I'll sit down and shut up and probably get kicked out anyway. I wrote this on Facebook. I don't think it's literature or beautiful public policy or Mark Twain in any way, but I'm just going to read it. For what it's worth, I wrote much the same thing elsewhere on this matter. In the scary, ugly, sometimes untrustworthy, and thorny forest of social media, even if no one cares what I think. Rhetorically, I ask, was this a campaign platform item for the school committee candidates during the very recent school committee election? I don't think so. And if it's not, it sure as hell would have been nice to know before the election. a few months back. And if I missed it, my bad. This individual taxpayer's parent and homeowner's thought is that this is yet another political sucker punch via a poke in the eye. Stop texting me out there, Planet Earth. I'm sorry, I just got texted. This individual taxpayer's parent and homeowner's thought is that this is yet another political sucker punch via a stick in the eye of our townfolk. Sheesh, what a colossal, unnecessary, aggravating effort. Unreal. Leave it alone. Parents will steer the boat and teach morals in the home. Thank you. Our school committee should continue and expand focus on top-notch, useful academics and smart budgeting. Policy that spills into overarching town branding is a nasty place to go in this very clumsy discussion, let alone hasty action of a small group, empowered or not. This is a town issue, unless compelled by law. A suggestion, because I hate when people complain and then don't suggest a possible solution, but it's not the end of it. Rebrand to the Vigilant Sentinel statue on the top of Memorial Hall. But still, that's a job for professionals in the branding business and costs time and money. Thank you, all of you. And God bless Foxborough. Good night.
Wonderful.
I hope I didn't tick any of you off, because it was unintentional if I did.
It's fine. Thank you, everybody. Moving ahead, I just want to say thank you all for coming to the open public comment. We'll see how the discussion plays out. That's later on in this group's discussion plays out. That's later on. Those of you who want to stay, please stay. We don't get a lot of company over here. Those of you who want to continue watching at home, feel free to do that. In terms of the agenda, you can see that we've got a few things before we get to the next bit of the discussion. And with that,
Mr. Chairman, can we just recognize, Coach Lisa Downs in the back?
Oh.
Lisa, I just wanted to say thank you for a great season. Just
thanks,
recognizing you.
Coach.
Thank you very much.
That's fine. Dr. Barros, would you be okay if we pushed special ed before superintendent update, or do they flow?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. Thank you.
Janet, right there.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Folks, on your way out, if you had written comments, please do give them to Ms. Gracia. Yep. And with that, folks, and understanding that the mics are on and everyone in the room is still on camera, I'll say thanks. And we're going to actually switch the agenda up again, moving our special ed update ahead of superintendent update and other discussion, understanding that you all, I really hope, have lives. And so with that, when he's back, we'll get Mr. Michael Azik and his...
He'll be back.
That's fine.
While we're waiting, we can certainly do
That's fine. While we're waiting for Mr. Michael Azik and friends to come back, I'll knock off the approval of minutes, with the committee's indulgence of me switching things yet again, because that's fun. So we have approval of minutes for March 7th, 2023. Do any committee members have questions, comments, concerns, additions, or edits for this robust set of minutes?
I'd move to approve the minutes from the March 7th meeting.
I'd like to second that.
Thank you. All those in favor? That is approved for publication and posting, 400. Thank you, everybody. Mr. Michael Azik, we decided, with your indulgence, to move you all up to being next. If that's okay. Thank you, folks. So come on up. And then,
Were y'all waiting outside the whole time?
Yeah.
God bless you.
it's fine.
Thank you for
Dr.
thank
Berdos
you for
or
waiting.
Mr. Michael Isaac, if one of you wants to MC and introduce folks who are here, much appreciated.
Sure.
Go for it.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
So we can kind of get started
Fine.
with introductions. Before we do introductions, I just want to say we do have one missing member. She does not feel well, Ms. Kim McDowell, who's not here tonight. So I'm going to take over her slides. But other than that, Corey Michael Isaac, Director of Student Services.
Hi, I'm Matt Struble. I'm the Special Education Department Head at the high school.
I'm Rose Ferraro, Elementary Team Chair.
Diana Parr, Preschool Coordinator. Sherry Spicer, Middle School Team Chair.
So, lucky director that I have a fantastic team. But most importantly, before I get started, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you, and Michelle, who's not here tonight. As you know, over the last couple of years, we've made some substantial changes around personnel, around allocating our resources in different areas in regards to our support staff, in regards to our professional level staff. So what you're going to hear tonight and what you're going to see tonight is really a direct result of what you guys have made possible over the last couple of years. And second to that, as I always say and firmly believe, that one of the reasons why I really like Foxborough and why I think we separate ourselves from other districts is the amazing, I can't say it enough, but I do, the amazing staff that we have, the highly skilled, highly specialized staff that make everything happen, and special education is so dependent on personnel, and having the right people in the right places at the right levels make all the difference. So that's what I just want to start off with. So this is a sign I have in my office. The most dangerous phrase in the language is we've always done it this way. I've had this in a 4x4 poster. It's actually my backdrop when I have Zoom meetings. It sends a message, and this is something that we firmly believe in. It's something that we look at every year, is that although we might have done something, this process or this procedure, the same way for the last 2 decades, even over the last 3 or 4 years, it's something that we need to look at. And so it's kind of our belief system. Agenda tonight with some topics. We're not going to go through each one individually, but it will be embedded through the discussions and conversations that we're going to have tonight. So just to give a little bit of background of our district and our special education numbers, district of about 2,500 students, and of that, a little over 500 students are receiving special education services within this district, which equates out to about 20%. So this is our elementary level. Our students in the state of Massachusetts can qualify under 13 areas of disability categories. We have many students that qualify under 2 or 3 disability categories, but at the elementary level, this does include our preschool, and we have 182 students altogether, like I said, including the preschool, and that is the breakdown of our disability categories. As you'll see, some patterns and trends, which I'm sure will be brought up tonight, around students with autism, students that were receiving developmental delay diagnoses through the team process. But like I mentioned, there is a number of students that necessarily don't qualify under one individual disability, but have very complex needs that fall in different areas, okay? And then around our special education placements, so our 6 to 21 placements, either full inclusion, partial inclusion, substantially separate, and of course that would also include potentially separate day and or private public schools for out-of-district students. But in looking at this, what you'll see here, and I don't have year-over-year data on this slide in particular, but what you'll see there is the vast majority of our students are now receiving the majority of their services in the inclusive environment, which is a shift that we have tried to make over the last several years. And at the elementary level, who has been kind of leading this and going up to the middle school and through the high school that you're here tonight, which is good to see that, especially at the elementary level, we're pretty consistent in how those services now are being delivered at the elementary level. Middle school, we have about 165. This is as of last week, so about 165 students. Again, these are the 13 disability categories and where they fall. And then our middle school special education placements. Again, the vast majority of the services are being provided in the fully inclusive environment. And you see there to the bottom right, there's a key. And essentially, it's any student that receives services outside of the general education classroom for full inclusion is less than 21% of the time.
Corey, just understanding that this part has been evolving, right?
Yes.
Over the last few years.
Yes.
And forgive me for asking for old data, and if you don't have it as ever, just you can get it to us later, but
Sure.
what did those numbers look like a year ago versus 2 years ago when you're looking at the full
Say 2 or 3
inclusion?
years ago, I would say it would be less in the full inclusion placements and more in the partial inclusion placements, which is between, if you see there, between the 21 and 60% of the time receiving services outside the general education classroom.
Thank you.
Yep. And then our high school, again, 13 areas of disability categories and kind of where they fall. As you see there, health is a primary kind of trend that we're seeing. In specific learning, same goes for the middle school as well, and the patterns there. And Mrs. Parr will kind of speak to she sees a pendulum swinging, and we talk about this all the time of students that are coming in through early intervention and their needs and what we're seeing. And this is where we are as it relates to special education placements. And again, the left is not percentages, and that's the y-axis, I believe, but that is just whole numbers, so numbers of students.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Struble will be talking tonight around some shifts that they're going to be making at the high school that would decrease the number of partial inclusion students and support those students in an inclusion model through enhancing our co-teaching practices at that level. And then around family and community engagement, that's something that is a core belief for us, and our events and parent events that have been facilitated by our community wellness coordinator, Amy Maldowney. Minding Your Mind has held several events. We've had Markin, Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center through Bridgewater State University. Dr. Elizabeth Engler has come in to do some professional development with staff, also has done some parent workshops for us as well. I still continue the Coffee with Corey, which has been enlightening. We've had some good discourse, but really it's an opportunity for me to engage with families that I normally wouldn't engage with on a regular basis. So again, it's just kind of what we believe in. And then what you'll see there at the top right is our CPAC officers who are here tonight, who have been vital resources to myself as the director coming into this district, as well as to supporting our families. And we are very much in alignment of what we believe in. So they held a community wellness resource fair, if you know, 2 weeks ago, which was very, very highly attended. So I give a lot of credit to the ladies back there that did a phenomenal Herculean effort in putting that together in a short time. And then in the bottom right, that is our partnership with the town of Foxborough. Myself and Mark and Pam McGuire had kind of worked closely on interface and adopting interface into our support system for our families. And what we're seeing is some pretty good positive feedback around wait times, right? So we've had many families that are waiting 4, 5, 6 months for outside mental health services. This is expediting that to the point where families are getting services within 2, 3, 4 weeks, which is pretty impressive. So that's, again, a partnership with our community as a whole. Professional development is something that that's near and dear to our work, right? Because a lot of our work, and I mentioned earlier around those students in full inclusion placements receive the majority of their instruction through general education and content teachers, right? And so I feel that, and we all feel that the professional development support that we provide should not just be for special education staff, should be for the greater good and for all staff that can truly benefit from that. So as we continue to work with Dr. Lisa Deeker through the University of Central Florida, who was just up last week with Dr. Burrows and I, visiting our buildings and again, enhancing our practices. So she's been doing a lot of work this year at the high school, doing some work at the borough, leaving the IGO alone for now because they've been doing some good work, but really kind of expanding the kind of those practices district-wide. Top right corner is an IEP writing strategies course. We use Alan Bloom for this work, and we're at a critical time in special education in the state of Massachusetts because the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education are making some momentum. This has been a conversation since for about a decade now, but making a new IEP document, right? So it's very, very different. It's a very different process. And so we are, on our end, have been working with Alan Bloom, trying to work with our teachers around providing some professional development around the document itself. So when that becomes live, we should be ready to go. So this is Ms. McDowell's slides. I'll kind of just briefly kind of go through them. She can speak much more articulately than I can in regards to kind of her areas, but unified basketball is something that we had just actually had a game today against Franklin, which was wonderful. Yeah, it's just, again, it's not just the basketball that goes into this. It's really just that community effort. It's really that that expanding of what students deserve, right? And so they deserve those opportunities just like any other student in this building. And so what we've seen is really taking over our schools, right? And Mr. Donovan had kind of led this at the high school, and Principal Frazier at the middle school kind of spearheaded this, and really kind of started the ball rolling and sent out an email to our listserv and really kind of got people interested. And before you know it, we have 40 teams that are participating at the middle school level, right? So it's pretty phenomenal what some of our leaders are doing across the district. Out of district update, you guys get that on a pretty regular basis around our numbers. What you'll see there is, hopefully, is our numbers are decreasing, not necessarily because we're not just sending less students out of district, but we're creating some more programming in-house, right? And that's what students deserve. That's their right. And I say that to families all the time, is it's their right to have programming and supports available in the neighborhood school. So that's our mindset. SEL Mental Health Academy. Sorry, I'll just go through this. Also, what we're trying to do, just to back up a second, is expand our relationship with outside personnel and agencies around Department of Mental Health, for example, and creating relationships with them to bring them to the table and support our students and support our district. So they've been doing a lot of work with our mental health teams district-wide in regards to the new programs that they have, in regards to expediting some referrals to different programs. So it's been a really good experience for us. SEL Mental Health Academy, like I'm sure Dr. Burrows had mentioned around the Inclusive Practices Academy, both at the Hearn this year and at the Borough, as well as the IGO and the Taylor. We also were accepted into the SEL Mental Health Academy a couple of years ago. So Mrs. McDowell has been kind of leading that committee, developing district-wide action plans that truly align to our pillars of success and our well-being and our wellness for our students. And it's been a great experience because it's teachers, it's people that are in the trenches representing all different facets of the district. So they've been doing some really great action planning around that, working with building principals, because every building, although we try to maintain consistency, does have its own flavor, if you will, and own needs, right? And so what we want to do is be consistent in our common language and what we utilize and how we engage with students, using our trauma-informed practices, which the district has adopted well before my time and really engaged in a lot of that work. And then around professional development of our SEL, professional development, MTSS, we've been doing this for the last several years and really honing in on those exact specialized trainings for some of our mental health staff. Bridge program is live and well in our middle school and our high school. It's really supporting all students as they're transitioning back from long-term hospitalizations for mental health related needs, for medical related needs as well. Also, it's really using as a more of a support mechanism before students may need that or may need that post-hospitalization or hospitalization outside the district. So it's a therapeutic clinical environment. Our staff are trained utilizing the McLean professional development and clinical modules as far as their support and their engagement with students. So McLean has been working with the district for a number of years. They've had when they first originally started their school consulting services, it was with Dr. Einsel, and they just kind of stayed with us. It's just now their target and their focus is a little different now in really developing the bridge program at the middle school and high school. And I think I said this last year, which still stands true this year. There's no other middle school program that I'm aware of that has a middle school that has a bridge program. So it's pretty phenomenal that the district here has really dedicated its resources into where it needs to be. Joe, you're in the way. One side. So action plans, Panorama, it's been our second year in rolling that out. Student surveys, it's K to 2 is teacher perception surveys, 3 to 12 is student surveys. And so we're able to gather a lot of student voice and a lot of student data in regards to the social emotional needs, and it really helps us drive our instructional delivery of support when it comes to mental health and comprehensive mental health services, where we bring together Dr. Larry Epstein, who we've utilized in the district. He's our Panorama guy now. That's what his kind of responsibilities are. So he's working with our district-wide mental health teams, right? We have mental health teams at elementary, middle school, and high school. And he comes together district-wide with our mental health teams, looks at trends, looks at patterns, what we can engage in, how our instructional supports should be looking like in our buildings, and helping our staff kind of really tease through that data of what students are saying to us. So it's been a great support. He's coming even on the 30th district-wide to look at those patterns and those trends and how we can support our students, whether it be SEL needs or mental health needs. Second step, just briefly, something that we had adopted is an SEL curriculum. We've adopted it district-wide. Right now, it's consistent pre-K to 8. aligned to Castle Frameworks, also is really a program that allows us to be aligned to Panorama and what we're doing within that. So it's been something that's a Tier 1 SEL curriculum that right now at the elementary level, at least our school counselors are engaging in providing a lot of that support. And preschool, Diana.
I feel like I was just here, so I'm going to keep
Because you were. Always a highlight.
Grab a mic. Had a busy week, and it's only, what, Tuesday? I think my weeks start on Fridays now. Our enrollment, right now, we're at 94 kids. And I'm sure most of you are aware that we're getting move-ins left and right from other districts on IEPs. 48 of our students are on IEPs. We have 20 referrals. Well, I just got 2 more today, so up to 22 referrals from early intervention need to be completed between now and the end of the school year. Again, those are the disability categories of the 13 that we are seeing in preschool. Our focus recently has been with an increase in the ELLs that I mentioned that last week when I was here, or 2 weeks ago when I was here.
Diana, excuse me, can you just, thank you so much there. Thank you.
I was mentioning 2 weeks ago, one of the things that's kind of creating some struggles and challenges in preschool with the limited spaces that we have for students are kids coming out of early intervention with as English language learners. And we just brought on for the preschool. I know she's been in district working elsewhere, but we were so excited to have PD on Friday with their Dr. Ronnie Lee Mooney, who we want more of her. She was amazing, but we're going to try and work with her to figure out how we can support these students prior to them entering school and keeping them off of IEPs. And I said last time as well that just because you speak a different language doesn't mean it's a disability. Actually, it's quite an advantage if you speak more than one language. Can you back up and stop rushing me, please?
Sorry.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 2 more languages today.
Today?
Yeah, Farsi and Swahili added today. We've had those languages in preschool in the past.
Yeah.
They just have moved on and now back again. So that's quite a few, considering we only have 2 integrated classrooms and 1 separate classroom. We have run out of space, as I mentioned to you guys before, of bringing these kids in and giving them opportunity. I had an example in our Friday PD of a little girl who came to us a couple of years ago. I believe she's in kindergarten now. We brought her in as a peer model because we had the space. She was silent for 1.5 years. She's, I think, in kindergarten this year, and they told me that they couldn't believe that that she was so silent. If she hadn't come to preschool, because ELO kids have their silent period, there's no telling how long it's going to be. Hers happened to be 1.5 years or more. But they couldn't believe that she had silence. She's giddy, she's engaging, she's laughing, she's not on an IEP, and she's doing beautifully. But if we don't have these spots for these students coming to us to have that silent period and have that exposure with us and have that practice and that rich engagement, they're going to have silent periods when they go to kindergarten and 1st and 2nd grade. So then you're behind by 3 years. So that's important. You can advance.
Oh, thank you.
We get along beautifully. The other thing that I feel like is kind of what Corey was saying earlier, just all of these different outreaches with the social emotional, it's pre-K to 12 and beyond, right? So we're all working on the same thing. We're using interface in preschool with some of those behavioral challenges in the home, and a lot of it is really parent support and helping parents parent. And those time frames, as he said, are shorter in the referrals. I had somebody that just went for an outside 2-year wait. Really? To go through Children's Hospital or anything like that for evaluations. one of the ways that we've been doing some community outreach is along with Amy Muldowney, the community wellness coordinator, and we did a visual make and take workshop in the borough after school. We had parents come in. We're hoping to do that again, just to do some basic behavioral strategy supports that you can make with us after school and take those and use them at home that night. So it's kind of an outreach of everybody having that COVID experience of, now we're out in the world and my kids have never been out and we can't manage anymore. It's hard. The other thing is the play group that I mentioned to you. I have to keep going in and clapping and praising the people that are coming in and supporting, because there's 15 families in it right now. And I have about probably 8 more on the docket, and they're saying, no. So we need to do more play groups. So we need more space. We need to build capacity, all that kind of stuff. And this helps lower special education because we're getting the services up front as opposed to reactive later. That's it.
Okay.
That's it for me. Sure.
Right. You can move to the next slide already. So our focus in elementary continues to really be on that co-teaching and inclusive model. I think that the 3 different elementary schools continue to be at slightly different places in our journey towards that. IGO is in what we would consider year 2, really, of that development, and they're in full swing. We have our special educators outside of our specialized programs. Our special educators are in most of our buildings, 1 to 2 grade levels at the IGO school, 2 to 3 classrooms, so it's a lot different than it was in the past. When I was a special educator at the Taylor, when I first started here, I was in 9 classrooms. So being able to really focus in on a grade level, focus in on building community has really been very beneficial to the children, of course, but also to the staff. Taylor's in what we would consider year 1 of the co-teaching model. This is new. We had added an additional special educator this year. It has been working out wonderfully. Those teachers are in 1 to 2 grade levels, 3 grade levels down at the younger grade levels because we have less students on IEPs at those grade levels. But again, it's working out beautifully. I think that there was some hesitation at first from the unknown of that, but I think they're really seeing, we've had Lisa Deeker come in recently and really seeing the growth, really seeing how positive an experience it's been for the students, for the staff, and everyone's really feeling very positive and excited about it. It's really great to see at the beginning of the year the apprehension, I would say, to now being excited and talking about it with their peers. Burrell is in really what I would consider the first, 0. We're still talking about next year. We're kind of gearing up for that for next year. We have an additional special educator will be coming on staff next year at the Burrell. We'll be moving more towards the model that the Taylor has adopted. They've spent a ton of time this year. I don't know if I've ever seen a staff more excited and wanting to gather as much information as they can. I think that's very Burrell of them, which I love. Very, very much wanting to make sure they're looking at it from all angles and starting off the year in the best way that they can next year. So we've had a lot of professional development with Lisa Deeker. She's really been focusing at the Burrell at the elementary school this year, doing some troubleshooting at the Taylor, visiting the IGO because she can't stay away, but really focusing on the Burrell as far as what is it going to look like next year. There's been a ton of conversation. Mr. Worth has been involved with special educators, the general educators. Everybody's really excited. So I think that it's going to be really powerful for everyone there going forward.
I'll just add to that too. I go to grade level meetings, and it's interesting now because some of the grade level teachers will say, "Can I just get the special ed teacher all day?"
Yeah.
That would be lovely. Not manageable on my end, but but that's before it was a little resistant because of the territory, right? This is my territory, and now they're asking for teachers more time, right? So the shift that we've made is again pretty astronomical.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And I mean, to speak to that, we've also, especially at the IGO, where we're feeling really comfortable with this model now, we've become really the leaders in that way. We've had staff from within district coming to observe at the IGO. Burrell particularly has come over, special educators, general educators, to observe their same, grade levels to see how it's going. We've had, sit downs with them for them to be able to talk about what's good, what's bad, the barriers, what can we do about that, which has been wonderful. But we've also had other schools from outside of Foxborough come in to observe at the IGO and the co-teaching model. We had the Worcester Public Schools come. We were anticipating 4 or 5 people coming. They rolled up with about 12 people. Luckily, they're very flexible at the IGO school, so the kids especially were, come on in, everybody, let me tell you about what I'm doing today, which was wonderful. We were able to sit down with them here. They were able to ask our staff, what did it look like in the beginning when you started? What are some of the barriers? How did you get around those? There's a lot of conversations about working with each other. How do you get around, there's so little time in the day to talk to each other as adults. How do you collaborate? All of those different conversations have happened both within Foxborough staff, but also these outside schools that are coming in. And it's exciting, I think, to be seen as an example for other districts. So we're really proud of that. We also had Russell Johnson come in at the end of last year. He came to observe and see our co-teaching model in action. Going along with that, really, Corey spoke to it a little bit already, but is making sure that we're aligning our IEPs with all the good work that we're doing. We want our IEPs to reflect the wonderful things that our staff is doing to support kids. I have the opportunity to read a lot of IEPs that come in when we have many students moving into Foxborough of IEPs from other districts, and often it's really hard to understand what exactly it is that student needs. And I think that here in Foxborough, over the last couple of years, we've gotten really good at making sure our IEPs reflect the needs and the services that our students have. So again, we've been working with Alan Bloom to, tighten that up. It's been really good. The staff often will say, we'll Bloomify that IEP to make sure that it's clear, it's helping with transitions between levels, that everyone can understand what's expected and what's needed for that student. And again, as Corey said, that will really lead us towards that new IEP, and I think we're set up for success in that area. And then finally, challenges and celebrations. Diana mentioned it as well. Really that unpredictable enrollment. We don't know when we're going to receive students that need specialized programs, on a Friday, knowing that they're coming to us on a Monday. That can be challenging when it comes to staffing those programs. It can be challenging in understanding, disrupting really, the apple cart of, we had a good thing going with one classroom. How do we welcome a new student in that might have some really significant needs? And what does the staffing look like in that way? At the elementary level, I think that also goes along with kindergarten. We have the luxury of knowing about our preschool students, but not every student that comes to kindergarten was part of our preschool program. Many of the children this year that entered kindergarten that we quickly realized needed some pretty significant specialized programming and services were children that were not screened before they came to us. So they came in and we had no idea what their needs were. They did not attend preschool anywhere, let alone our preschool. So making sure that we can meet their needs can be a real challenge, and something we're working hard to try and get everybody in to be screened so that we know ahead of time what we're looking at and how we can best meet those kids' needs. But I guess just kind of to sum it up, I love that picture there of the little guy with the older students, hand on his head. They're buddying up. It's working. The co-teaching, the inclusive practices, we're seeing it working. There's challenges that go along with it every day, but we're seeing the benefits outweigh those. So, yeah, thank you.
Sherry.
Oh, I think.
Sorry. Went way ahead.
Just trying to rush us.
So there's been many changes and updates at the Adjourn Middle School, starting with, we're continuing with the expansion of our specialized programs. With our LINK program, we added a second teacher this year, which has been great. She primarily works with the 7th grade this year. Next year, she will work with 7th and 8th grade students. So all of our students who have language-based disabilities will be serviced at the Adjourn from 5 through 8. Also, we continue to work with Landmark, who comes in and is helping us develop and work on expansion of that program. And that's also, working out very well as it's also working out very well. We also have our team therapeutic program, and we're currently in the 2nd year. We added a special education teacher last year. We worked on dividing the program into internal versus internal and external behaviors, so that students who are more with the anxiety and depression and need that more the quieter, calmer space, they have access to that teacher who's able to provide some of that clinical therapeutic supports. And then we have the other portion of the program for our students who may have more of the explosive behaviors, and they're able to work with that team of teachers and educational assistants who are able to help those students become regulated, with the goal of them all pushing back out into the general education setting. We also have our PAVE program for students with intellectual disabilities. This year, we added a second special education teacher, and we was able to divide the program using a similar model at the elementary schools with the Step In, Step Out program. That is working out excellent. Many of those students are on the unified basketball team, and they're having the experience of their life. We're already looking at unified track coming up, so this has been a great opportunity for them to feel included within the school community and Foxborough community. Also, those students continue to participate in our music therapy program, and it's just providing a more enriching and engaging experience for them. Specialized program development and training. So we continue to work with Lisa Deeger, who's coming in and really doing a lot of work with co-teaching and co-planning practices with our middle school teachers. And we're also continuing our work with Alan Bloom, and I have to remember that quote, Bloom and Feynman, the IEPs. We have a meeting with him next week, so I have to mention that. That new quote, they all know what I'm talking about. He's been an excellent resource for us to have with just really developing the IEPs and starting to lead us through the new IEP. So this year, we're also really pushing creating more opportunities for all students to be in inclusive environments. This year, we're kind of starting to focus on our math classes and having those students be able to take, come out of the C grid or more specialized math classes and push into our regular math inclusion math classes, just so that they have more opportunity to be exposed to grade level curriculum and increase their ability to be able to pass the MCAS, which will lead to them being able to earn a high school diploma. So this has been a big area of focus this year, and we're also continuing planning next year to have probably starting with our 7th grade and 8th grade teachers, linking them with a content area general education teacher, where they'll be primarily with them throughout the course of the day, and be able to really embrace that co-teaching and co-planning model that we're moving towards. I think you took a slide up, but I wanted to talk a little bit about transitions. We're starting to roll out our transition meetings with the elementary school and with the high school. We're planning, a transition night with the high school. We're doing our internal transition meetings where we support students as they're moving up to the next grade level. Our guidance department and our teachers, we all meet at one group and just really proactively plan for the next following year. And then that will we also have our external transition meetings where our parents will come in along with our the team, and we're actively planning for those students as they transition to the high school.
Well, last but certainly not least.
Hi, I'm Matt Struble. So I'm going to touch on 3 areas. One is the transition partnerships that we're kind of establishing this year and bulking up. Our co-teaching model, which we've talked about a little bit with Lisa Deeker and what that's looked like. And then our vision of the graduate as we prepare kids for life beyond high school. So this is Rebecca and Jacob, and they're representatives from the Federation for Children with Special Needs. On March 30th at 6 p.m., we're going to have an informational Zoom for anyone who wants to attend, 6 through 12, and they're going to focus on transitioning and how to partner with the Federation to understand the resources that they have available to families. I kind of look at the approach to our kids as how can we get the community involved with the resources they have available and incorporate the school with that as well, and just support families as much as possible. And the Federation has been phenomenal. The enthusiasm they have is not lacking at all. They're very excited, and I mean that sincerely. Like they're great, and so we're gonna have that night for parents to attend specifically, and then I'm gonna invite Jacob and Rebecca to come into the high school to speak with students and start working towards what that looks like for them once they leave the high school. And they also are putting out newsletters, and they're putting out things that are just, they're so beneficial, and it takes a little pressure off some of the educators at the high school because they're doing things that they don't necessarily have to now, and that they've always had to encompass their entire world in terms of the transition piece, and now we're utilizing outside resources for that lift.
And just to speak to that, Rebecca and Jacob, there is a new program within the Federation of Children with Special Needs. It's called the Transition Project, and they selected Foxborough to be their pilot of their program. So we're engaging, and like Matt says, they're very enthusiastic.
So this has been a great partnership. Jason Parker is our representative for Mass Rehab, and he's been working with families that are currently like seniors that are kind of moving on, and he's providing them with resources that can provide them with tuition, like offset the cost of tuition and certain fees that are associated with schools. They're helping kids on IEPs that get services beyond high school, and helping families understand the resources that are available to them. They help with understanding how IEPs transform into 504s for post-secondary education, and they also are working with the pre-ETS. So pre-ETS is pre-employment training, and we offer 14, 15, 16-year-olds a chance to enroll in this program. We can do direct referrals, and then they get job training, they get internships that could actually be paid, and can start working on those job skills and make some of the mistakes when they're 15 as opposed to 19, and kind of work through that. They do resume building. They do it's phenomenal. They've been great with working with us so far. They've come into my department meetings and talked to our staff, and they have come on a few Fridays and met with students in the building, and we've then been able to foster those relationships with the families so that they have a rep, and I can say, like, this is Jason, this is a good thing. You want to make sure you're engaging in this to really help yourself out down the road. And we're moving to co-teaching. So I came to Foxborough 5 years ago. I think the second question in my interview was, where are you on total inclusion? Because it's very important to me. I don't think everyone's dealt a fair hand in life, and I think that it's our duty to kind of try to make sure that the people that aren't necessarily get that chance to play, and that's kind of where I'm at. And so Lisa Deeker's been phenomenal. We brought her in 3 different times, I think, this year, definitely twice. But she looked at our CP2 classes, and then she looked at our college prep classes and tried to find barriers of what's going to stand in our way of making this transition. But I think if you look back to that first slide and you saw the full inclusion with the partial, with the substantially separate, you're going to see a shift all the way over to the left, and then hopefully the goal would be, as they, there's no IEP in the real world, so let's get these kids focused and ready as they're starting to move it out of the high school.
And just a piece of that, thank you, Matt. In special education, I think there's a big misconception, right? And the misconception is around needs of students versus service provision, right? And so sometimes districts mess up, right? And if they don't have really strong, cohesive, inclusionary practices, students by default get more restrictive services and more restrictive settings, right? Because we lack, or a district would lack the structures for those inclusionary practices to take place. Once you have those structures in place, students are receiving the appropriate services that they're required to receive, but not necessarily more restrictive, right? Because we have those structures. So that's what Matt is kind of talking about.
And so I'm on a few different committees, one of them being NEAS, because we're going through our decennial review right now. And part of that is we're trying to make sure we have a vision of the graduate that reflects a well-rounded student that leaves the building and is ready to face the world and the challenges that it provides. And I think the players we have in place now, I don't know if I could imagine more turnover in one building in 1 year than what happened this past summer. They're all phenomenal. They're amazing. Jim Donovan does a fantastic job, and he is leading the charge on really getting this going in the right direction, and people are excited about it. And his ability to communicate what this is going to look like, and having done it in the past and the experience he's bringing is just, you know, I almost said my address was 120 South Street because I feel like I live there. You know? And I just think he's doing a fantastic job. And so as we're moving, and I'm, you know, part of my job on the ask is the steering committee, but it's to provide that lens on the special education. So like I was in Needham High School yesterday, looking at their co-taught practices, talking to some of their teachers there, and that was actually a part of the science curriculum review that I'm on. And then I was at, you know, I can't remember the school name now, but I went and visited a couple other sites there. I'm going to go to Duxbury in a few weeks and see what they're doing. And just I want to take the best of what every school has and bring it here and really just give the best product for our kids.
This is just a continuum, right? So any student, we have mentioned students that move in or even students that start with us through early intervention. That's kind of the roadmap that students, if they were to enter preschool through early intervention, that's a continuum roadmap. So as these students and their needs expand, we need to ensure that we can remain agile to meet their needs, right? So last but not least, I mentioned earlier, a big part of our work is parent feedback, parent input, family input. That's the core of our work. Just as recently as today, I was selected to speak on a panel with the Federation this morning, and we talked about practices that we've adopted in Foxborough to engage with our families. It's pretty alarming the amounts of families that had talked about no interactions or minimal interactions within their districts, right? And I think our families bring such a different lens for us. And so even last year, we partnered with the Federation to give a survey to all of our families that have children receiving special education services. And they provided some really good feedback to us in regards to how we're going to continue to deliver our supports and our services. So this is just a nice little video that speaks to some of our work and some of the incredible work on behalf of our amazing staff that we have in the district. Do I just press play on this? Oh yeah, big shout out to Mr. Michael Weber, who at last night kind of merged our videos together at like 11 o'clock at night, so very much appreciate that.
Paul's taking care of it, I think.
All right.
Thank you.
In the meantime, we'll just stare at Carrie.
Who conveniently left right before
Yeah,
this video
right.
came up. He knew where it was in the slides, right?
Nice move, Karen. That's okay.
It's like going and picturing an old-time movie reel.
Hi, I'm Carrie Weston. My son Callum Weston has been receiving services from special education here in Foxborough for the past 10 years. It started with early intervention, which transitioned into our preschool program. Since that time, Callum has received a multitude amount of services. He's received PT all along, OT, speech. He receives accommodations in the classrooms. He has had aides. He's now within the co-teaching model. I'd like to say that his limitations and disabilities are getting better. They're not as the work becomes more challenging in middle school, but I do know that the specialists that he sees, the teachers that he has within special education have Callum's best interests at heart. For example, I most recently asked for a tech evaluation to sort of help Callum so that work wouldn't be so laborious and difficult for him. And we've received those results, and there might be some interesting things for us that can help Callum. I think that the co-teaching model is working really well for Callum. I think it's exactly what he needs to be in with his peers, and not necessarily as many pullouts, and be getting that same interaction with just a little bit of support from his special education teacher has been very helpful. I also want to mention that the Student Services Group and Corey have been very supportive of our CPAC, attentive, available, always coming up with new ideas to try and help us reach out to our parents even more.
Hi, I'm Erin Bose, and my son Tyler is currently an 8th grader at the Adjourn Middle School. I can honestly say we've had an overwhelmingly positive experience with all of his teachers and service providers, and we've had so many different services that my son qualified for that honestly we've worked with everybody from the speech and therapy department, the occupational therapy department, the social emotional skills, the guidance counselors, and the adjustment counselors, and everybody has taken a vested interest in my son and our family, and we have really felt that. My husband and I really have always felt like we never worried about him when he was at school, that he was always taken care of, that people were always looking out for him. And I have to say that the staff there has made us just, they've really just made us feel like part of a team. And if I ever had concerns, you know, they were always listened to with open ears and open arms and an open door, honestly. We haven't always agreed on every single thing, but we certainly always felt like we could bring up our concerns, and that at the end of the day, what was best for our son was what was done.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelly Lynch. I'm mom to 3 children across the Foxborough public school system, and I've been working with the special education team for about 15 years now. You know, our journey has not been without challenges, certainly lots of uphill climbs and twists and turns, but I've always been so confident in one constant throughout, and that is the deep commitment of Foxborough special educators to their work and to our kiddos. You know, I think this care and dedication was on full display 3 years ago when we all look back to those earliest phases of the pandemic, and how important it was that our special educators committed to being in person full time as of the summer of 2020 and throughout the entire academic year 2020-2021. A powerful demonstration, I think, of how these educators always put their students' needs first. You know, being parents in a wider special ed, a special needs network, we're reminded constantly by talking to parents in other districts of about the important ways that Foxborough special education distinguishes itself. You know, one, the team engages parents as full-fledged, valued members of the IEP team. And I can't underscore the importance of that in terms of how we can work together to co-create solutions that have the strongest chance of working and lasting. 2, we have found that the team never hesitates to raise their hand and bring up a concern if they sense a change is needed. And it's been critical for our kiddos to be able to benefit from real-time adjustments and pivots to their IEP plans in order to maximize the school year and avert crisis as well. And thirdly, I just love how this team focuses on the whole child. I think about new programs that have launched or relaunched recently, like Unified Sports, and what a tremendously positive impact those activities outside of the classroom are having on not just our kids, but our wider community as well. You know, last year, Massachusetts celebrated the 50th anniversary of Chapter 766. And Chapter 766 was the groundbreaking legislation that made special education, inclusive education possible for children across the Commonwealth. And it's really heartening to know that the same spirit that drove that hallmark legislation is alive and well here in Foxborough today. And that matters. It's important because the work is never done, and there is so much more for us all to do together.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Allen, and this is my daughter, Sophia Allen. Sophia is a 22-and-a-half-year-old young woman from Foxborough, Massachusetts, and she has just finished her education with Foxborough Public Schools. We are a family of Foxborough Public School members. My husband and I are both graduates from Foxborough High School, and now Sophia is a graduate of Foxborough. We also have 3 other children in the Foxborough Public Schools. Sophia's journey as a special needs student has been an adventure, and the Student Services Office at Foxborough Public Schools has helped us navigate what isn't always a clear path through the education process. Sophia was fortunate enough to go to Boston College Campus School from 2010 until just last month. She's now in a adult services day hub program, but we just want to express our gratitude and our thanks that this young lady has met and achieved so many milestones. When you have a child with special needs, you really don't know where the path is going to lead you. And we, like most parents, want the best for our child. We want a great education. And in Foxborough, we were able to achieve that. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do in life is to ask for help. And we did that in Foxborough. And we got, from the Student Services Office, many meetings and many things that we never dreamed of in terms of the education for our daughter. We want to say thank you. We want to tell you that from the bottom of our hearts, this young woman is thriving, happy, has made friends, and has achieved many of her life goals.
So that's it.
Hi.
Questions?
Questions or comments from the committee?
So I wrote some notes down.
Please.
I just had a quick question. So Amy Muldowney, sorry if I said that incorrectly. That name, I've heard it from almost every single one of you. I want to thank you for writing that grant, but my question is, how long is her position secured with that grant? Because it seems like she is a really busy, really special lady.
Yeah, she's very special. God bless you, Joe. Very busy, very special person with very unique talents. So when we originally applied for the grant, Dr. Mello and I, so I have to give her some credit because she's kind of a good writer and corrects all my mistakes. We went into this grant knowing that it was a one-year grant at that time, but with the opportunity potentially to receive 2 one-year continuation grants. So it's all dependent on the governor's budget. And so last year, we were fortunate enough to receive another approximately $200,000. So over the last 2 years, it's close to $500,000 we received in SEL mental health support. And there is talks right now in my communications with Destiny that there is an opportunity for another potential one-year continuation grant if it is approved through the whole governor state budget process. Sure. And so we're hoping that we do receive those funds. I will say that we're also we hunt for money, and so we try every avenue to get as many funding, resources as we will, right? But we also don't want to create a dependency on grants around personnel and positions. So working closely with Dr. Bertels, working closely with the business office and Bill to how do we support these positions, leveraging the grant funding. So as of right now, for an honest answer to your question is that she is part of the grant. If we don't receive the grant, then potentially her services won't be here. But at the same time, also, we're hopeful that there will be potential opportunities for her through other grant funding sources.
All right. I believe it's Diana, correct? I wrote down, you had said there were 20 evaluations. I believe you said IEP evaluations waiting. Yeah. And I just wanted to know, approximately how long does each one take you? Like, how much time is represented in those 20s that are backed up? Approximately,
Just to write the report, it's a couple of hours.
So if you
to write.
To write in the microphone, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure.
To write, it's probably 2 hours. And then to go evaluate them, because they're not here in our building, we have to go out and see them in their natural setting, because to bring them in and say, sit down in this strange place is challenging. So we build relationships, we go to their play groups, we go to their therapy sessions. If we can, we bring them in to see us to do some of that more formal stuff. I don't know, each one of those, 45 minutes each, maybe.
I just, in hearing you talk about all the work that you were doing, and then you I'm sorry, I don't want to give you anxiety, but it just made me think about how your commitment, you guys are amazing. Thank you for everything you do. But there's so much that you can't even put on a PowerPoint. And I was thinking about that, and it made me stop and think, I wondered, but I had a feeling. So
The thing that's different about preschool from transitioning from early intervention is it's not a busy season at the beginning of the school year or at the end of the school year, because we take kids when their birthdays happen. So it's rolling admission all the time, all year long. Sometimes November's a slow month. It depends on kind of the events in the world, what happened
Weather.
9 months before. COVID did a number on us. So, all good, but
Well, thank
it's
you.
busy.
Thank
It's
you for
busy.
everything you do, and the time commitment really does, it astounds me, so thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being here, everyone. That's it. I have more, but I'm not gonna.
You sure?
Yes. Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I'm pausing.
No,
Okay,
it's
fine.
okay.
That's just good teaching, right? Yeah. I had a couple things that I can follow up with an email, because I think it takes a long time to educate school committee members. And the variations that we've had in different iterations of this report through the years is a lot. And I think one of your first years, and a lot of us were more new to that, and we were all new to you. I think we ended up Q&A time just went for a very long time, because we're just trying to literally get educated on all the number of programs and the services that you all provide. And that's important. And by way of that, and I'll just give you a taste, I'll follow up with an email, but I'm going through this and impressed by all the programming and what you do for kids. And then probably because I'm learning more about this, I now have more questions on certain bits of data that this is not something that we have to discuss, but I just love to see. Maybe backdated for this year at some point, and then
Coffee with Corey is coming up first week of April.
That's great. I take it black and in very large jugs. But no, a couple of things that were mentioned touching on data, just things that I'm just interested in. One, you touched on it, Ms. Parr, and so did you, Ms. Ladani, is this idea of the workflow and how long it takes to do these things. Like, for example, how many referrals are you getting? What are all the numbers of tests and evals? And I think this is just helpful information to have. And you have initial evals versus re-evals, and I think that's helpful information to have, kind of in the background. And understand, I'm not saying I want this now, but I'm just I think it's helpful to fill out a fuller sense of what it takes to do all that you do. Because when you look at our job here in terms of making sure that you're all fully funded and staffed, I think that helps fill out the story. Following along with that, certain things I think that are just helpful, and one of the things you've heard me say again and again and again, and I'll continue to say, is that one of the things I love about this district and this administration and this faculty is that they're not afraid of data, because data is just information, right? And so to that end, how many IPs do we have? I mean, you mentioned that. How many are, how many have been rejected? How many are partially rejected versus accepted? Because that's all information. And I think that's just valuable information for folks to have. And, for all you guys, be like, yeah, it's what it is. We report it.
Because those also equal time too, right?
They absolutely equal time. And then they also equal potential conflict, which I think, then gets into more some of the stuff that they have to deal with at central office. To that end, other things that I'll just quick hit with that I found very interesting about the graphs you're presenting. I love those. It's helpful. You mentioned the year-over-year thing. If you look at the data and you think that's nice to show, great. It's an interesting story. Curious to add to that the out-of-district placements. And then the one thing is it'd be nice to see it eventually in graphical form is this transition to co-teaching, right? Because you can kind of show that by age graphically. And we know the story because we've been tracking staff changes and things like that. Other things that go on that, and I'm just more curious than anything, is stats that go along with the bridge program. Like how long are kids receiving services? How many of them actually are able to transition back? It's just information in terms of the snapshot of what's going on related to that. And I'm very fascinated by this because we had a lengthy discussion. It was either last year or the year before.
Last year, I think.
Probably last year, about all the transition programs. Where are these kids going? What are the different things we know the types of paths that kids might take, but I think that's helpful to see just as a snapshot in the numbers. And with that, I'll draw breath and stop saying that, but I'll follow up with this stuff. I just think as this group matures into our roles here, it's helpful to get to know you all a little bit more, and it's just different views.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
So if you remember back earlier when Declan reminded us that kindness was having people smile, again, y'all's back was to most of the room, but you gave us kindness with your presentation tonight as well, because there were smiles throughout the room. So thank you.
100%.
Oh, please.
I've never been.
Come on up.
So I don't know how this works. I just want to.
Well, we do need to hear you in the mic,
Yeah.
mostly because, everyone at home is taking copious notes on everything you say.
Hi, I'm
Welcome.
Erin Bose. I was on the video a minute ago.
Yeah, hi.
I want to just take a very quick opportunity. I know we've been here a long time, so I'm not going to take a lot of time. As you heard, I have an 8th grader. We're ready to transition to high school. And we've been in the Foxborough Public... Hi, Diana! Been in Foxborough since coming in through early intervention. I just want to take a moment and kind of give you a snapshot of my son's, like a day in the life of my son, from a whole being, because I think sometimes we focus so much on the academics and the grades but honestly, I think if out of anything my son has ever gained out of being in this school system, it is character development, it is confidence, it is like all of those human traits that you just want your kid to leave your home and go off to college with. So I'll give you an example. I just saw Mike Stanton leave as I was coming in. He was the principal of my son's elementary school. When my son was very dysregulated and the OTs that were working with him didn't know really like what to do and he was being disruptive in the classroom, Mike brought him into his office and did yoga with him multiple days a week. This was like their routine, the tie on and everything. That's the kind of principle we have here in Foxborough. Then today, my son joined the unified basketball team, which has been a blessing because at 14 years old, when your son says he wants to play sports for the first time ever, there's really nowhere for them to go as a beginner athlete. So this was phenomenal for him. All of his teachers were at the game today, and he ended up scoring the last basket to win the game today. And we got home and he went onto his computer to check homework. And the first message that popped up was from his social studies teacher, Mr. Gill. Nice shot, kiddo. The kid is over the moon, proud of himself, excited. Like that's the kind of stuff that you can't teach in a book. And so that's the experience that we have had overall here in Foxborough. I've said it from the very beginning. It's a family. I felt like family. I still hug every single teacher he's had when I see them. I'm just so fond of all of the teachers and service providers we've had. I'm going to be super sad when he does graduate and moves on because it has definitely been like a huge part of our family's journey is the public school system here. So I just wanted to share that real quick.
Thank you.
I do have one more comment,
Go ahead,
if that's
Sarah.
okay.
Yes, Ms. Ladani.
You had said that they use how burl of them. And Erin, that was really sweet. How burl of you. That's so awesome. I love that. I wrote it down. It stuck out. I loved it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for the detail
And Diana, we'll be back in 2 weeks.
heart that you put into this.
Yeah, you'll be back.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm
You'll
starting
come
to feel
back for something.
comfortable.
You might as well-
I could probably sit up there with you. Have a good night, you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for being here, everyone. Thank you for waiting as well.
Just pick and choose.
Seriously. No, I think I'd probably go back to order. Next up on the agenda, unless somebody else wants to move something, school committee vote on school choice.
You have superintendent's update.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Berdos. I am so sorry that would you like to give your update?
Sure, I'll make it brief. And most of it is going to be things that different depending on what level your children are in. You're going to have seen these, but I think they're just
Right.
important to call out.
Thank you.
And one of the things that's already been called out a couple of times this evening is congratulations to our girls basketball team for winning the Division II state championship. that took place on Saturday night, which was fantastic, and congratulate the girls and the coaches and all the parents and the fans that were there. Just congratulations to them. Also to our winter cheer team. They competed in internationals this past weekend for the small varsity advanced division in Orlando, and they came in second place, which was fantastic. We also had, I think, 20 of our students that went to DECA, to states. We had 2 of our students for the DECA competition that actually placed in the top 10 at the state competition, so that was pretty phenomenal.
That's great.
As far as some things that are taking place this week, we have Bandorama that's going to be taking place on Thursday. We had Choral Palooza a week ago Thursday. That was a great concert. I went to that one as well. The Unified Basketball, which we already said, which was fantastic. And I think that has just been so moving. I think Erin did such an amazing job of talking to that. So did so many other people this evening. But just for our students, the opportunity and to have so many people there at the games, which is fantastic. The carnival's coming up for Ahern on Saturday, so that's something that's taking place. Spring sports. It's great to see everybody out on the fields. The weather has cooperated really nicely, so I don't want to, yes, we'll knock on wood there. Next week, as a reminder, on Monday, March 27th, we have our annual World Culture Night, which is such a wonderful celebration of our families and the community, and it's at the high school, so that's something not to be missed. It really is becoming a long-standing tradition here in Foxborough to be able to celebrate the cultures and experiences and traditions of so much of the diversity that we do have here in our community. We have also on that evening, there was, it's a virtual opportunity that's going to be taking place for mental health, for virtual college in your mental health. That is being in partnership with the National Alliance on Mental Health through Central Middlesex. So that information and Zoom link and everything went out.
Thank you.
The coffee hour, I want to just mention that that was a change in the schedule. So that's now going to be taking place on April the 4th. That's one where we've asked families, they don't have to RSVP, but it's very helpful if they do. So that is something that's coming up. And the last one I'll just mention is we also have the program of studies that's coming up at the middle school. Depending on which grade level, it's 6:30 or it's 7:15 if you have the upper grades, 7th and 8th. So again, that's a lot of information, but I would just say, look on the calendar on the website, look at the communications that are coming out from principals as well, because there's a lot taking place and it's only going to get busier as we continue through spring and towards, May and June.
Thank you, Dr. Barros. Any follow-ups, questions, or anything? Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for your patience as we shuffled that around. Next up, school committee vote on school choice policy. This is an annual that we look at. In the past, we had taken some time to talk or ask questions, but in the past, the committee has not needed extra time. Save me. And so with that, I'll ask if any committee members have questions or comments or things that they'd like admin to speak to or that they'd like to speak to regarding. Okay.
So what are we voting on? What does the vote look like, or the motion look like?
Thank you. As I put it away.
We would move to not.
To continue not.
To
to
continue
the current
continue our
policy.
policy, which
Okay.
is to not admit non-residents, right?
Yep.
So I motion that we continue with the current policy, file JFBB, to not admit non-resident students under the terms and conditions of the Interdistrict School Choice Law, Mass General Law 7612.
Thank you, Rob.
I second that.
All those in favor? That is 500, so that is reaffirmed for another year. And thank you for keeping it on our calendar and bringing it to our attention. It's appreciated. All right, next up. Second to last item on the agenda. Further discussion of the FPS mascot. You folks had heard me say at the beginning that I had moved this to an information only, but that's really up to the will of the committee, but I'm not going to be calling for a vote. But we have this time to ask questions of each other, share any information that people have found, or just anything of that matter, or ask any clarifying questions of each other or admin.
I think it's probably, we should just reiterate, we want to thank the people that took the time to come and speak tonight. I do think as a committee, it's important to remember that the people that come and speak are not representative of the community as a whole. They are individuals that come and speak. So we do want to thank them for the participation, but we do have an obligation to the entire community, as well as an obligation to understand what is happening outside of the community.
I'll also add, in addition to my continued thanks that so many people came to participate, I'll also mention, because I didn't at the outset, and I usually do this, we had a number of community inbox submissions this round. I think last count was in the mid-80s. Those opinions, I'm not going to go through all of them, but they expressed a wide range of opinions, much more diverse than perhaps we heard in the room tonight. And I'll remind anybody in the community that that's always a good way to get in touch with us. Folks are always welcome at open public comment. And also to the point, I mean, we prefer things through here and the open public comment box, but when we've had a few folks send things along to me or another committee member, we kind of have a habit and practice of just sharing with the whole committee. So it's been a lot of articles, here, read this, and so on and so forth. And so for that, we're very thankful. I will, if only for my own part, just to round out some of the things, some of the very good points that I heard during open public comment. Just to reiterate one of the things that somebody had said, this was, just by way of clarification, this was nothing that any school committee member came into this year saying, yeah, we're going to do this. This was nothing that any school committee member who was on the ballot, that'd be me and Rob Canfield, came into this saying, yep, this is something we're going to do. This is, and I'm reiterating something people may have heard in the last meeting, hopefully you did. The school committee has gotten letters every year, a trickle, not a torrent by any stretch, about addressing the mascot. Almost every year, I think, and I'm a comparative newbie on the committee, but going back and talking to former chair and longtime committee member Tina Bellinger, it started with her first vote on the committee. It was in something involving the mascot. So it's just been present. Legislature's been kicking it around for a while. And understanding that I think in recent years, forgive the use of the word recent, there's numbers attached to that I don't have in my brain right now. We've gone from over 90 mascots in the state used that use indigenous names and or imagery, down to 70, down to now 23. That's just data. It's not good, bad, it's just numbers. And that's an interesting backdrop. It was with that and those things in mind that I believe Mr. Canfield said, hey, let's put it on the agenda and we'll dispense with it. At that moment, I believe that no one on the committee knew that the powers to take the mascot issue on were solely that of the school committee, frankly. And we did our homework on that, and that was new information. So I just don't want folks to come away from this thinking that people came into this year saying, this is something we're going to talk about and this is something we're going to do. So that's just a point I just want to throw out there by way of clarification. In fact, I believe many of us probably wish we had spent our night a tad differently and different topics, but that's just me.
So clarification, there had been a request at the beginning of the 2021-22 school year.
There was, thank you. Let's
To
go
have
back.
this on the agenda. That was the beginning of our dealing with COVID and the pandemic. We decided as a committee at that time to table that because we had other priorities about returning to safe opening of schools. So that is actually, at least in my tenure on the committee, when the topic first came up, we did agree as a committee at the time to resurrect that discussion once we had dealt with some of those special circumstance business,
No, your memory is correct. Thank you, Mr. Canfield. That's true. And then previous committee members have forwarded along past correspondence and things, and the file goes on. And it's the same sides of the issue that people have been expressing, that people may have read online or folks have submitted to the community inbox. So that's backdrop.
You said the 21-22? I think it's actually further back. I think it's the 2021.
It was the beginning of the pandemic season.
It was August of 20.
Right.
It was
So
August
thank
of
you.
20 because I was the chair and it was criticized.
No, that's more.
I was criticized for my reaction. So.
Oh, of tabling it?
Yeah, because we had other things we were doing.
We had a lot of other things we were doing.
But
anyway, so people
the
ask,
conditions of the time.
why now? It's been kicking around. So, and my feeling as chair when it came up again is I love it or hate it or don't want to do it. I take the personal view that if you're elected to this and an issue comes up, it's your duty to deal with it one way or the other, rather than ignore it. And that's my preference. And a preference that people are free to disagree with. The other thing I wanted to mention that came up, it was in regards to, and forgive me, it was Miss Topping had mentioned outreach to a few tribes, as did, I believe, Mr. Guild had mentioned outreach to a few different tribes. And we had we've had a few unsolicited submissions from National, I'm going to get it wrong, National Congress of Tribes, and sending the committee research, basically just a blanket email to all of us saying, here, read the following research. This is some stuff on mascots and previous positions of various tribes on that. There's been a handful of those messages that have come to us, and there's also been I think some ongoing outreach extending from what Ms. Topping had mentioned, that we didn't hear back from one person on the tribal council of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. There's other members of that council who are in process of getting back to us. And just understand that, yes, please.
Ms. Topping said the Plymouth Wampanoag, Mr. Guild said the Mashpee Wampanoag.
Thank you so much for the clarification. Sorry, and forgive me for speaking so freely off the cuff without just getting the terminology right. I do appreciate that. And so there'll be more information forthcoming, I guess. Now, in terms of, are there any other folks on the committee who would like to speak? And that includes Grace, obviously, and Nathan, our student representatives. By the way, folks who don't know, we have a tradition of having student representatives on the school committee. I hear tell that the public schools keep them very busy, so it's hard for them to get here a lot of times. But no, Nathan, thank you so much for being here so often, and what do you have?
Dear school committee and community members, my name is Nathan Ehrman. I am a student representative on this committee, football captain, class of 2024 president, and an active member of this community, and I'm here to voice my opinion on the Foxborough Warrior logo. This is an issue I'm passionate about, and that is why I've gotten many of my friends to come here and speak before you today. Being a warrior means more than just the name. The logo represents the grit and passion and pride we have as a warrior, whether you're playing a sport, in a club, or musical program. Being a warrior is represented throughout our school. As the smallest school in the Hockomock, Foxborough has been overlooked or looked at as underdogs, but the warrior inside of all our student athletes, musicians, club members, and everyone else comes out on top, and we always put up a fight. The logo to some may be offensive, but that's only because of the social stigma the logo brings. The logo does not promote negative stereotypes. Instead, it embodies a noble figure who shows courage, pride, and resilience. We cannot just get rid of this. We in the town of Foxborough should not just follow the trends of other towns or schools. We should have our own identity, and the logo is just that. This logo has been around for quite some time and represents warrior pride. This logo represents more than just the school. It represents the town, its history, and simply the people of Foxborough. The history of our town brings up an interesting point. Foxborough was formerly settled in 1704 on land purchased in 1666 from Wampanoag chief King Philip and incorporated in 1778. It is named for Charles James Fox. Before the colonists arrived in 1704, the land was inhabited by Native Americans. The logo is a representation of history, and we should not just erase it. The economic effects of changing the logo are astronomical. Not only do most school boards have the logo around the building, there are a number of logos that would have to be replaced. Let's put this into perspective. You wake up tomorrow, you're in my shoes, you get ready to go into gym class, first period. You walk into the gym, what's the first thing you see? All 60 banners around the walls with the logo head straight on them. That shows our pride and determination to keep winning. We can't just get rid of all those banners in the history with them. Take a look over to the center court on the basketball court. The logo is right there. Do we have the budget to fully replace the gym at the high school and the court? Changing the logo would also mean sports would have to get new gear. For example, tennis with the logo on their jerseys, lacrosse with the logo on their shirts, and many more. Is the town and school committee ready to fund such a big project? Respectfully, this brings me to my next point. Is this an issue that the 5 members of the school committee should solely decide on? This logo affects more than just the people of the committee. Most importantly, it directly affects all the students and Indigenous people of this town, and they should have a say in what happens. The students and Indigenous people deserve to be heard and represented. It should not be up to just the school committee members to decide if we should erase our history and change our logo. As I finish up, there are 2 points I want to mention. Being a warrior means more than just the name, it's the warrior. The pride behind the logo too. Students and community members deserve to be heard and have a say. Let me finish with this. As a town of Foxborough, we should not be trend followers, we should be trend setters.
Nath, thank you for that, and also I as I should mention it in front of everybody, I'm very grateful that you had convinced so many of your classmates and colleagues to get over their trepidation and be part of the process. So that was well done, you. Is there anything else? I mean, that was a great prepared statement. Is there anything else that's on your mind related to it? This is not the only time. This is not the only time I'm going to ask. I'm just saying.
I think that's about it for now.
All right.
For now.
For now. Thank you.
There are 2 points that I know that several people had asked questions on. Do we
Please.
have definitive answers? When was the Warrior name adopted by Foxborough Public Schools, and when was the current logo adopted by Foxborough Public Schools? Do we know answers to those 2 questions?
We don't actually have definitive answers unless.
Is it possible to get answers to those 2 questions?
I know the current answer of the logo.
1984 is what you said? Okay.
1984, the current logo that stands on the gym floor.
And that, yeah.
1984.
Okay, so
To the, by Coach Martinelli, correct? By that,
right.
By, on the helmet.
With nothing but pride and respect.
Oh, I understand. I understand.
Absolutely.
More the question of the year, but yeah.
And the logo that was there prior, which I have a picture of my phone, was a much like.
Thank you. You gave me my answer, so thank you. I appreciate it. Do we know when the name was actually adopted?
Earlier. Earlier.
I'm sorry?
Goes back over 50 years.
Okay, so 2 generations.
And when you.
Okay, thank you. That's it. That's all I wanted to know.
No, it's fine. I actually can fill in a tad more for you,
Okay.
though.
Okay.
By way of information.
Okay, thank you.
Since you asked.
Okay.
In my leisure time of reading all the high school yearbooks from 1938 forward, they're very nice and well done. You're spot on with that. And if you don't mind, send me that logo just to my email. But like the. Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, that no, that's fine. No, it's different. It's different.
Much different.
But the prior to Coach Martinelli putting that version of the logo, which is simpler to reproduce, more widely recognizable, and so on and so forth as a logo, it's clearer. It was pretty piecemeal in terms of what images were used, or if images were used. In fact, it was interesting to hear you say, Nate, that I didn't realize that tennis had finally put it on their uniform, because for most of the history of it, they didn't have it on there. Track didn't, and soccer didn't, and so on and so forth. And it was pretty piecemeal until it grew.
I was told by Joe Cusack in 2020 that was the last one that we actually put it on, and then he was told not to put it on anything else.
Was tennis? Interesting.
The female tennis in 2020 was the last logo that we put on the uniforms.
Thank you, Mr. Dooley. And then in terms of the name, we need better, tighter information on this, but it seems some of the old Foxborough papers have been digitized, therefore easily searchable. And then there's a group of them that in the middle part of the last century that haven't. And then when they started redigitizing them in 1965, in 1966, you hear a reference in the town paper to Warriors in reference to the basketball team. But deeper prior, no. But I think that's an interesting question. And it's an answerable question. We just need to look at the information of it. Both the library and thankfully Yale Memorial Hall has all that information for folks who are interested. That's it. I had reached out, mostly just in my own searching of things. I'm just going to read these into the record, and I'll invite community members to respond to me or whatever. But I approach things. I'm an educator, and I approach things from a teaching mindset and like try to how we understand things, because people understand things differently, right? We can all look at the same set of facts and come to different conclusions, but if we agree on the facts, there's that. And so I guess the questions that I'm filtering through my own brain, I just want to be transparent about it, when it comes to looking at less the name Warriors and more the current most widespread, well, the mascot, or the logo, I should say, is what past are we hoping to honor? Who are we honoring, and how specifically are we doing that? We've heard people speak to that tonight a bit. Other questions that come up with me are, what do our schools in our town do currently or in the past to link the town's Indigenous past and present to that of local, even broader Indigenous peoples, past and present? So what are we doing for Indigenous folks as of now? And when it comes to the likeness that we use now, that it's people mention it tonight. That's a history you can find. There is debate about, was it Buffalo Nickel that went and then spawned the Washington Redskins? There's a strong link there. Some people might disagree, but the logo that we grabbed was pretty close to the Washington Redskins, which you can say predated. That was a likeness, an actual likeness of an actual man in Montana. And I guess the way I ask the question, I don't mean it to be inflammatory, and I'm honestly asking, is do the town's current and past efforts to honor our past, Foxborough, and our present link or align with using the likeness of this person from Montana from a long time ago? I guess it's just a question. And I guess I don't mean to, I'm asking. And if our current values and practices are in alignment, great. I'd love to hear it stated and understand it. And if they're not, what's required to make them in alignment? People did mention the school, Dartmouth, right? Part of the reason that the local tribes had felt differently is their particular mascot was drawn by a more local Indigenous person to be a likeness of the more local Indigenous community that still lives and is active in that community. And one of the pieces that was sent around to school committee, and folks can find it online, it's one of the easiest things to find, are the discussions and efforts that Dartmouth made to try to bring their practice in line with their hopes and their ideals. And I'm asking that into the ether, but I just wanted, because people were good enough to listen this long and people were good enough to come here, I wanted to be transparent, at least in terms of the things that I think about. These things will obviously morph over time, but you're getting my take. Anybody else? Because clearly I need to stop talking. Ms.
I need
Raymond.
to just correct myself because I got a text. It was 1982.
Thanks.
2 years earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Lee. Ms. Raymond.
So I have a couple of questions. One question is, all right, so what would the cost be? This is brought up a couple of times, and I haven't heard, or I don't know any information on that, is if we decide, and I'm not saying that we're going to make any changes, what's the cost to the school system for that? I mean, that is a large part of what our job as the school committee to do, is to manage costs and allocate and so forth. And so I don't even think you can have a discussion on this without knowing what the implications are to the school department as a whole. And I also don't fully understand, okay, if you make a change, then how quickly do things need to be changed? And what exactly the implications of that. So I don't like to make decisions without really knowing what the unintended consequences of something is. So there's that piece, and I think we need that information. The other thing, and I'm kind of going off of, I came late today, so I haven't heard everything, and I will go and review everything. I was listening to some of it. But just kind of, as I'm sitting here listening to what Nathan read, and also taking into account some other things, and the timing of all of this, I look at, our kids have been through a lot. Students have been through a lot, trying to figure out identity, connection overall. I'm very hesitant to make a change that's going to take something from them. And if that's a connection that they feel with their community, I'm going to have a really hard time making that change. And I think that that's something that we need to, as adults, listen to that. And not every student is going to be able to come and talk to us. Sure. But I think that we need to keep that in mind, that sometimes there are things that, as a student, that connects you to your community, that is an identity, that means something very different to younger people than it does to adults, coming from a larger view. So I haven't fully formulated that, but that's just something that, kind of hearing what I heard in the limited time that I was here tonight, I think is something to keep in mind.
I appreciate you
Thank you.
discussing that out in the open, right? I think that's important. I will, and this is not by way of an answer, it's more just a reminder that in terms of process, cost, yes. I think that's information that folks, that's knowable information. Time, that is, if the committee is deciding, meaning if the committee decides to make a decision, that is a next step. It can be put ahead of time as a precursor, but timing would be, again, up to us unless we delegate it to somebody else. By way of example, KP simply decided to stop buying new stuff. That was their decision, and meaning stop buying new stuff with the logo. Still others, Medfield, when they did it in 2020, they put a timeline, and this was committee decision, they put a timeline of a year. And I've been making my way talking to folks at various committees and whatnot, because, this is quote unquote fun for me. No, I'm being sarcastic, forgive me. But I just want to understand how different folks do it. And those were just, in those two cases that I mentioned, and in others like it, those were decisions that the committee took into heart themselves. So I just want to, that's not to deny your question, but just know that, yeah, that's something we probably have to think about. Okay? And then other things that come up, because people have mentioned it, are going back and looking at iconography that currently exists in the building. Like, I don't think anybody would have the stomach for going and like changing things on awards or things like that. Our history is our history. That's just my view. But there are different models of this. Different schools have done it differently.
There are decisions that would have to be made.
Exactly. And so step by step by step. And it's my suggestion, and you all can choose to put forward votes differently than how I would, but my suggestion is decide on or not, decide to take it up, and then decide yes or no, and then if we take it up, make a decision on that, and then if the decision is any form of change of any kind, then we have to deal with the implications. That may not be comfortable for folks, but that's a way to keep it in order. At least that's my thinking. Any others?
I have one question. What was the very beginning when you said finances is knowable? Is that what you
Knowable, meaning that's a number that we can.
said? None about business, how much it will cost? Is that what that means? Or you-
Meaning that is meaning that I currently don't know.
Right.
They can find out pretty fast.
That would-
Pretty fast. And then, you talk about like uniform, we've had this discussion when it came to sports uniforms before, right? Like those things they should be regularly cycled out, like in that kind of thing. And so is it,
I apologize for being late, but I was at a Warriors event.
No.
Can we move the
I just
question?
had one
Yeah,
question.
folks,
Are we all set?
Yes,
Any more
thank
committee
you.
questions?
so if there's no more committee questions, then with that,
Other matters.
other matters.
Oh, did Nathan, you have a question?
Hi, Nathan.
Is there a way to get like more of an official poll to like see how the town votes? Because I know we emailed back and forth, you said polls don't really hold much. So I was wondering if there's a way to get more of an official poll.
He has to
Like-
say into the microphone, he's waving.
Oh, sorry, Nathan, yeah,
Got
please.
the word.
Thank you, Mike, ask your question.
I'll restart. Is there a way to get more of an official poll on how the people in the town think? Because I know we went back and forth, we were emailing, and you said polls don't really hold much persuasive power or weight. So I was wondering if there's a more official way to do it, like through the committee, to see where the community stands, more of the community stands, than just the people that were here today.
I think that's one of the many next steps that the committee can entertain, whether that's through just more ongoing discussion or deciding to take to inquire about something like that, and that can be different vehicles for that are this forum right here, subcommittee or executive session or any other of the other tools that we have to like just decide what folks want to do next. So forgive the non-answer.
I would just say everyone's opinion matters in whatever way that it comes.
Right. So, all right. And with that,
Chairman, could I say ask one more question?
yes.
Christine Igo, Freeman, Tenco-Cassett. I know a couple people mentioned a subcommittee. I was wondering if that would be something your committee would be open to?
Oh, no, that's something we'll
Because that we
discuss.
could do the research for you, because you obviously have other things to think about, but a committee of people who are passionate about this could do the footwork for you and the research and some of those questions like you asked, just basically, when did the Warrior become the Foxborough Warrior, and just some,
No, I appreciate that. I mean, there's no shortage of models from other towns.
Right.
Of ways that they've gone about this. All the way from bring it up, vote now, to all the other things we mentioned, so.
Right.
Anyway, well, thank you. Any other matters before we move on? Yeah, no, we usually go down this way. Sorry, I normally
No,
address
it's
you. Ms.
okay.
Ladani, other matters.
I wanted to let you know, as far as Parks and Rec update goes, I just wanted to announce that the skate park is closing for a few weeks for regular maintenance, for anyone who needs to know that. And at the next town meeting in the beginning of May, we will be having a vote for the naming of the new pavilion at Booth, the Deb Giardino Pavilion.
Aw, cool.
So I wanted to announce that because I thought those are two important
That's great.
things to share.
Thank you. When is that?
I believe it's the town meeting, the first,
Fine.
I think Monday or Tuesday in May. I think it's May 2nd.
Oh, it's at town meeting.
Yeah, it's at town meeting.
Sorry about that.
Right
Thank
after
you.
elections.
May 8th, sorry. Thanks, Joe.
Right after elections, it's-
Committee, and May 8th is town meeting.
Okay.
Joe?
Committee election?
Joe, thank you, as ever, for knowing that.
School committee election, first Monday in May.
It's an important date.
Mr. Canfield.
Only one person running.
Mr. Canfield, what do you got?
Nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pearson, what do you got?
Nothing.
Ms. Raymond?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Dr. Berdos?
All set?
Dr. Burrows?
I am all set.
She is not. Nathan?
If I counted right, we have 18 days till April break. But only if I counted right.
You're like quantifying the amount of learning you can do in those 18 days. Understood. I have no other matters beyond just to say thanks again, everybody, and thank you so much for everyone who participated and who's still here.
So with that, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? 500, we stand in adjournment.